right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Honcast.com, where we have a Honcast podcast going to be coming at you. Patch 3.4, a rising tide is upon us here in the world of Heroes in New Earth. Really excited for this. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a great podcast for you guys today. We're going to basically be going over pretty much most of the patch here. A lot of balance changes happening specifically. That's, I know, what a lot of people here tuning in are interested in. And we got some people on that pretty much know everything about it when it comes down to this patch, or at least hopefully, you like to think so. So really excited to have some fun here today. With that said, go ahead and introduce the panel here. First things first, we got our great community manager, the sexy Adam, a.k.a. Ace Jr. How's it going?
What's up? It's going good. I don't know if you want an introduction here. I mean, I'm excited for the patch, Rising Tide.
Okay, he just wanted okay.
Oh, well, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's it. But.
Nice to see you guys out there.
Just kidding.
And a little rap, of course. No.
They always want rap.
That's for later. Aaron, a.k.a. Waza of the design team. Waza, how's it going?
It's going good. Always is.
Good. And then, of course, Pandaroohoo, the one with the plushies, as always, in the background. Panda.
Hello.
You guys in the same room there, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Pandaroohoo share an office.
How was
Makes
that?
it easier to bounce ideas off each other.
It's good. Good times only, no bad times?
Oh, he's quiet as a mouse. I feel sorry for him. I'm shouting all day long, man. It's
it makes it easier to shut down Aaron's ideas.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of that going around, I'm sure. Aaron throws them out, and you're just like, no, not going to happen. Okay, with that said, we got a lot to talk about, though, when it comes to this patch. Like I said, in fact, it was released yesterday. Here, I'll just show it on screen here real quickly. So this is what I'm talking about. I mean, this is just, obviously, from the beginning here, what it's called, the Rising Tide, appropriate name, seeing that, well, Riptide, the newest hero, which, yes, we're going to be talking about especially very shortly here, kind of going over that and reasons and maybe what the idea behind that hero was. But it starts with that, I mean, but it just keeps on going and going and going. So this isn't the biggest patch we've ever had by any means, but it's definitely a good-sized patch. So, here we are post-Han Tour World Finals. Obviously, we got this is a good time, I think it's safe to say, to make a lot of these balance changes that are happening and almost a different direction that we're taking in some certain aspects, specifically with the jungle, with some polling creeps perhaps, and it's going to be interesting to see how that affects things. So, first things first, I want to kind of go around here. We'll start with you, Pandaroohoo. What about this patch? How are you excited for it? What do you think this patch is going to bring to the table?
I think this patch is going to bring a lot of cool new strategies. One of the nice things is if you've watching part of the competitive play and even high TMM for a long time, there's been this mandatory requirement to have a jungler, or not even just a jungler, but someone always constantly getting the benefits of the jungle on your team. So it encourages drafting heroes that really can only take advantage of that, or team lineups that have to require basically your Moon Queen or your Conus or even your Ophelias, heroes that can maximize the jungle.
Yeah.
And I mean the problem is it's become so focused on that you really only want to take the heroes that are going to excel at that. So again, you have your lower end heroes, your Wild Soul, your Eversolstice. These are heroes that are much harder to see and they're much harder to draft because realistically you're just trying to get as much golden experience from creep clearing as possible. So, but patch, I'm pleased to see that these jungle changes were going to bring up some interesting things. There's going to be a lot more map activity. It's going to be a lot less of this passive farming that you've been seeing. So, curious to see the results of it and what kind of heroes emerge from it.
Hey, I've been very happy, and I think this is a general statement amongst a lot of viewers and everything. I think the scene has actually been pretty good when it comes to diversity of heroes, phenomenal. When it comes to aggressive play for the most part, but that doesn't mean there can be better. So it kind of sounds like that's the approach we're kind of going with here with this patch.
They're always llooking to improve the game, and this is one of the next big steps to try to get to the point where all heroes are viable in competitive play.
Yeah, well, we got a long ways before that, let's be honest. I mean, you got some out there. Amon-Ra, good luck with him.
Who knows?
A couple others.
Might see the new Amon-Ra jungle.
Whoa, that's true, I guess. Waza, what about you? What are you excited for with this patch?
Well, I'm definitely excited for the reworks. I'm excited for Cthulhuphant, I think, mostly. I think what he's going to bring to the game will be very exciting. As far as competitively, I think that he has a niche that he might fill that he previously couldn't. And that Silhouette's going to be a boss. I can't. Like, Silhouette.
There's some interesting changes to Silhouette, man.
Strong.
She's one of the reworks, so.
We definitely took a lot of time with these reworks, and we had a lot of feedback from the community on this, and we worked with the SBT testers a lot more than we normally do. We really hashed this one out, and I think you guys are absolutely going to love these reworks.
You didn't even mention the hero?
Yeah, well, I mean, we got Riptide. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Riptide. I mean, Waterman all day, every day. But it's the reworks that excite me the most. I think I'm really looking forward to getting into some Cthulhu games and driving people mad.
Waterman, you say? Just like Lion Man?
Yes, it's not. I don't think the public know about it, but my naming convention for heroes that I come up with
Something
all start
Man.
with something man.
Yeah.
Like I subscribe to the Mega Man naming scheme. Waterman, Lion Man.
It's a wonder why they don't let that actually go through, and why that doesn't actually go into the game.
It makes internal testing so much easier.
Yeah, that's true.
Content never goes for it, but
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to ask Mr. Ace Jr., what do you think? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, sorry.
He's a busy man, so it's understandable. Community's constantly having things thrown at him. So, Ace Jr., this patch, Riptide, I mean, new hero, the reworks as we talked about, a lot of changes here. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I have to agree with Wazo right now is that some of the reworks are looking pretty awesome, including I think Cthulhu is going to be just super cool, making people go crazy. Can't argue with that. Also excited, let's see, on the list of my top things I'm excited for, Bombardier. Nothing better than throwing a sticky bomb on your
That's interesting.
allied Invis-Hero and then having them
go.
go there and just
whoa,
go to town,
hey, whoa.
Mage Bane Bombardier, new meta.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I don't know, looking at the forums, and a lot of people were theory crafting with different combinations of heroes with that, and just all these small little changes that could overall, I don't know, affect all the gameplay, which is going to be awesome. So I'm excited for that. I'm also excited for a lot of the items. Personally, I think Strider's getting a little 2 HP regen when it's charged is going to be pretty sweet for your support hero because I play a lot of support, and that's just pretty important to me. So that along with a little bit of an energizer, I call it a nerf, but I don't know. I think it's gonna be a good patch.
It is. There's a lot to talk about, like I said. So without further ado, I think it's time we start diving into it now. And, we're not going to go over every single change to spend good time on every single change by any means, but we'll go through them at the very least. We'll bring it up. And if there's discussion points to be had, then sure, maybe go into it. But for the most part, want to keep this, maybe 2 hours at the most here. So, but again, it is a good-sized patch. So here we go. Let's get it kicked off. I think, again, it's safe to say, as far as the start is concerned, I think Riptide is where we got to start. Riptide, the newest hero to join the Heroes of New Earth here. The world of New Earth, as I like to call it. Riptide. Not Waterman, Riptide. All right, so you see his abilities right here. We got Watery Grave. Again, I mean, you can read it for yourself for the most part, but just a quick explanation. It does the silence on top of the slow. If on water, it also slows for 50%. And then the silence on top of that, as well as just a damage nuke. So it's an all-around very, very powerful ability. Undertow. Target location to deal. You know what? I don't know why I'm going over this. It's on screen for you guys. I'm going to let the one and only Waza actually kind of take over. If you want to actually give a more of an overall idea of Riptide, what he's supposed to be, where he comes from, and how he's going to dominate Heroes of New Earth.
All right, Riptide. So the original idea came from, of course. All right, so I guess I'll preface this a little bit better. All of us here at S2 Games, we've played Dota, we played Han, we've played, Smite, League of Legends, you name them, we've played them. We love the genre, right? And I every now and then I feel like there are, and to be frank and honest, there are play styles within Dota that I thoroughly enjoy and miss. And I think that there are plenty of people in Han that would love to see some of those play styles reunited. So what I wanted to do with this guy is take an old favorite of mine in Dota and do him our way. So do him and have him shaped and moved differently. So the idea is that this is based off of the old classic of Night Stalker. but with a twist. The idea is that this guy would have a much more controllable manipulation, which is terrain rather than time of day. Now, the idea with this too is that you've got this giant water storm that he can start, this giant horrible rain that he causes. When he does, he becomes incredibly powerful, and it provides an amount of fear that we don't have on any other hero, and it's the reason why I looked for this, because I remember playing back in the day and playing Dota when Night Stalker would activate that ultimate and nighttime kicks on. You know he's coming for somebody. You know he's coming to kill something.
The hunt is on.
The hunt is on, exactly. And so now the lightning strikes, and Riptide's like, "Oh, your doom is nigh," or whatever he screams at you that he's coming, and it gives this just horrible feeling that some ganker is coming to get you. So like Fade, he's invisible, pops out, she kills you instantly. You're like, "Oh, Fade, you son of a bitch, you got me." But this is very much like a looming threat is coming for you, and you know that he's coming. You don't know who he's coming for, and it really changes the atmosphere that I don't think that we've had in a playstyle lately.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like this roaming, ganking semi carry. That's just a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that we've brought this playstyle to Han.
Yeah, I think it's a very attractive play style, and again, the concept of the hero. No doubt, Night Stalker, a very popular hero from the Dota scene, and I think the one thing about Night Stalker though that really stands out is the fact that he's underpowered during the daytime, and that he's completely overpowered during the nighttime. I'm sure when designing Riptide, as you said, you don't want to make it its own in itself, sure, but was that something you thought about too, as far as the design goes? You want to kind of maybe even that out a little bit at least.
Absolutely. So when you look at Night Stalker now in Dota, they kind of lessen that to an extent, where you have Night Stalker he's really good during the day and he's just amazing at night. But what we wanted to do is be a lot different, where we have vast differences. So during the day, or not during the day, but when he's off water, when he's on dry land, you will feel like this guy's a punk, and and let's go get him. He's very much
Take his lunch money.
Yeah, he's very much a nobody. But as soon as he can manage to activate his ultimate, or he can get on the river, all of a sudden it's, run and hide. Waterman's definitely got a clear, decisive advantage. And I think that's why when people read, like, In My Element, his passive, and they look at it and they're like, "Wow, man, dude, that's bonkers. That is just a crazy passive." Mm-hmm. Well, that's the point. It's because we want you to really feel his power when he's on water, and we want you to really miss it when you're not. And I think that Night Stalker doesn't currently have that feel in the current Dota, and I think that we really set out to make that difference with Riptide. And you really will notice it. You really feel strong when you're on water, and when you're playing against it, you'll feel like you can manage him by managing whether or not he's on or off water.
Yeah. Panda, what about you when it came to balancing such a hero like this and putting numbers in there and everything? How was that experience?
Well, it's actually pretty interesting, because this is the first time we've introduced a hero that really has terrain manipulation.
Yeah.
So it's trying to balance, the offsets of, you want him to feel, again, as Wazo was covering, you want him to feel really strong when at these certain moments around the map or where he's on that water. So for that mid lane matchup, he's extremely potent. But then if you try to risk him putting him in like a side lane, you need to accept that he is naturally going to be a little bit weaker. So it's an interesting draft dynamic, essentially, because you're kind of putting in a little bit more on his mid lane matchup. So the other thing was encouraging. It enforces you to really manage runes. You don't really want this guy to take off too early. Mm-hmm. So it's certainly very tricky making sure he's feeling powerful during, like, he's not feeling too weak when he's off water, because you still want him to be able to contribute. So doing things like giving him a little bit of utility, but not necessarily so much of his damage. So you want the majority of his damage, high impact, good feeling moments to be when he's on this water element.
Yeah.
You don't. So made sure that he still had a little bit of utility, that he can still contribute to team fights. That when he is defending his tower and he doesn't quite have like his ultimate yet, that he can still feel like he's contributing to a team, because Basically, you don't really want a hero that is not going to contribute when he's showing up there for the tower to defend a tower. So
Yeah.
balancing a hero like this, I'd say is a lot. It was a lot of fun. It's certainly an interesting challenge because we haven't really had too many binary elements of good in these scenarios or bad in these scenarios too often. So I would say it was an enjoyable experience to balance it. Certainly did learn a lot.
Good, good. And I'm sure as always with new heroes, keeping an eye on it as it's released, and paying attention to how it's working. Because ultimately, in the end, there's only so much testing you can do before it is released to the masses, and then you have to kind of, hope that it works out to an extent. But so what about you? How do you think this hero's going to fare in the pub scene, the mid wars? What do you think it's going to do?
Well, Mid Wars, I think it's going to be a good time in Mid Wars, just because you're on the river the entire time. But what I was going to bring up before was that I think the coolest thing that really differentiates Riptide from Night Stalker, if people are making that comparison, is this like deep puddle aspect. So it's not even that when he's on water that he has his bonus, yeah. But then when his ultimate's going on, then he can still be on water and have an even bigger bonus. Mm-hmm. So it's this cool aspect of now you're in deep water, now you're in trouble. Like if you can't swim. GG. So I think that's a cool little aspect to him that people might not really grasp at first. And I don't know. To me, I think props to Waz.
So to better explain that, it is Night Stalker's ultimate very much just makes Night Stalker's nighttime last longer. With this here, we wanted his ultimate to do more than just make water everywhere. We wanted to make the other abilities more impactful. So like the Q, the Watery Grave, if my opponent is on water, I do more damage and I silence longer. The W, like Ace was bringing up, instead of just being added water, if it's during my ultimate makes them deep puddles, which now has the stacking slow. So now I can slow them further. And of course you have the In My Element passive. So it's not just this passive that's increasing his power. When he ultimate, when you're on water, every single ability has some sort of improved functionality, which I really like.
There's an interesting question / comment made here. Cake Source actually in the Twitch chat brings it up. Basically, he says, I appreciate that you aren't afraid of taking inspiration from Dota heroes. That being said, both the latest heroes, Clanks and now Riptide, have been fairly quote-unquote straightforward heroes gameplay-wise. Is that a general aim with new heroes, or can we look forward to more complex heroes as well? I mean, personally, I don't think this is a straightforward hero by any means. I think there is a depth. I mean, as you even kind of explained it right there, but
So there certainly is an elegance to it. I mean, the ultimate goal is to create heroes with a low skill floor and a high skill ceiling, and what that means is easy to learn, difficult to master, and that's really what we're striving for with our hero designs. Is for the barrier of entry for these heroes, you don't really want them to be too high. You want it to be a little more accepting for players, but the amount of potential that it has to really have the hero take off and excel. You want heroes to really feel appreciated. They still have the high skill dynamic. I mean, specific to even just someone like even specific even to Riptide, there is a interaction between the Undertow and the Watery Grave. Of Undertow is a slow moving skill shot, but what it does is it also leaves water on the ground. Mm-hmm. So if you do time it correctly, if you do position it correctly, you can get the extra effect from Watery Grave when they're on water. So there is still that skill dynamic and skill interaction, and we just want to make sure that when designing these heroes, you can really separate out who's phenomenal with these heroes and who's really just face mat rolling their keyboard.
Yeah. All right.
As far as difficulty and design goes, we know that there are a vast difference in people who like what. There's people who like the micromanagement of Ophelia, and there's people who don't want to have multi-unit control. Every now and then you got to do some. I know Clanks is more of an auto attack, and this guy's more of an auto attack. But like Panda said, there's a lot of little nuances. But we do have other heroes in the pipeline. I know I've heard a lot of people saying in chat, 4 months for one hero. What are we doing?
That's their obvious voices too.
That's how I hear them in my head. No, we have several heroes in the pipeline. These are two that Clanks and then Riptide that just came out. We have several others that are looking to come out as well, that are done, that have been tested, that are going through the phases of getting content models and all that. So we do have a lot of more complicated stuff coming, and different play styles that we will be looking to fill.
Good. I do want to make a point as well. I notice people in chat, I understand that's part of this podcast is for you guys to be able to ask questions and get some answers from the design team. Not something you can do every day, I know. So, but we are going to be going pretty much all the changes, especially the bigger ones, guys. So I noticed a lot of questions about like silhouette and slither and stuff like that. We will be talking about that eventually, guys. So just stay patient, stick with us, and we will get to that in this podcast here. So. I think it's safe to say, though, we're pretty much good with Riptide. Got some good explanations there on Riptide, what he's going to be. And, yeah, he really is. I'm not going to lie. Me personally, some of these later heroes, Clanks, me personally wasn't my play style, wasn't crazy excited for, but I'm excited for Riptide, man. He seems like just a fun hero. I love the Night Stalker concept. Like you're saying, this in case with the water, working with the environment, kind of tactical play when it comes to that. So that's gonna be fun to see. And I dominate in mid lane as well. So and this hero's perfect for that. So yeah. I cannot wait to get 1450 with this hero finally. All right, so let's move on here. Okay, so I think that the next one I want to go over here now is Cthulhuphant, the elephant, whatever the hell you want to call him. There are many different ways, apparently. He's one of the 3 heroes, I think. Yeah, 3 heroes that got really a rework in this patch. We've had reworks in the past. It's not a completely new hero by any means, but, well, as the term goes, it's a rework. You take some of the abilities, make some tweaks, maybe make some balance changes in other ones. Cthulhuphant definitely got hit all across the board with that. So just as you can see on your screen right here, you got Trample. The launch distance has actually increased, the starting distance of it. The stun duration increased, and then the damage increased from each minion hit. On top of that, his hook him. The concept of the hook him, it kind of changed a little bit here. Instead of the HP value of the target max HP, it's now a set number on top of a percentage of the target HP, as well as it now pulses for damage, both to creeps and heroes. Difference there, but a slight difference in damage. And the duration was lowered on top of that as well. So it could even be more of a farming tool now to an extent. This is where it gets really interesting, though. The passive, what used to be known as Mortifying Presence. Thank God that name got changed. Dream of Madness is now the new name. And I know even Iwaza kind of hinted to this. When I first heard about this, I was like, whoa. Just whoa. And basically, so you activate it to start the aura. It covers 1,000 radius from Cthulhuphant. Anyone facing him receives stacks of madness. Once you are 4 stacks of madness, it actually causes your heroes to go insane, making them attack the nearest unit for 1 second up to 2.5 seconds. And then on top of that, now, the stacks, so when you're not looking at him, though, it actually removes 2 stacks every second you're not looking at him. So, in that concept, as long as you're being careful, not looking at him and going back and forth, then, you should be fine. But then also, when you happen to be within 400 radius, he also makes you move 50% slower and do 10% less attack speed. So, definitely a much different aura there, and that's going to be interesting to see how that affects things. And then the last ability, of course, Obliterate. He got some changes across the board in terms of how the damage scales and whatnot from each of the levels. So, there you go. There's a breakdown there. Panda or Waza, whichever one of you want to take the lead on this one. Waza, right. It sounds like, yeah.
So, basically, we decided that we wanted to rework Cthulhuphant. That we, again, I don't think anybody could disagree that Mortifying Presence was never really that effective an ability, and even when it was being effective, you couldn't really tell that it was activated. And that it also required you to kill an enemy hero, which Cthulhuphant isn't specifically that good at. So I presented it to the SB tiers, and we started theory crafting, and one of our SBTers, Hubaris, came up with a very cool theme-oriented rework, and then I, realized that we have Cthulhu, who has this really cool theme that we've never really touched on, but that's besides the point. We decided to rework them. The point being is that Cthulhuphant has always kind of fit into all these different. He wears many hats, He's decent at jungling. You got Demented Shaman. You put him in a lane, he's a decent laner. He gets into a team fight and he can put out a good amount of damage if you're right on top of somebody. But for the most part, he can be ignored. So we really wanted to put him into a strong niche, a very team initiator chaos. We wanted him to be like, you have to deal with me because I'm going to just throw a team fight for a loop. So that's where this dream of madness comes from. You can easily work around it. I mean, it's not everybody thinks, oh, I can't look at him. This sounds really retarded. But the fact is you can look away from him for a second, drop 2 charges. You're only gaining 1 charge a second. So it's very manageable if you're skilled and paying attention. If you're not, you're going to go crazy. You're going to flip out and you're going to start attacking everybody. And so in playtesting, it was just so much fun to jump into a team fight, activate this aura, and just watch how people have to work around the fact that you're driving everyone mad. And it's really good. It's a really solid rework. I think Dream of Madness being at 1,000 radius might be a little too far. We'll see how that plays out. We'll watch it closely, of course. But everything else is pretty quality of life. I know somebody asked a question about Hook'em, whether or not the shield or whether or not the pulsing damage will last as long as the shield or the full 25-second duration. It will last as long as the shield lasts. When the shield dies out, it will die out. And they both share the same 25-second cooldown.
The Dream of Madness is a great ability, or it's a great addition to the hero. As you said, it really fits the theme, and it definitely brings a new mechanic into the game, even, which is really cool. But as you just said right there, I'm actually even more intrigued about the Hook'em. I mean, this is a hero that, speaking of jungle changes, which again we'll be getting into, but speaking of the Hook'em ability, this actually gives him even more of a jungle presence. I think it's safe to say when it comes down to it, being able to farm. Was that maybe the idea behind doing this?
Yes. Me personally, I've always loved the Cthulhuphant that was a lot more chaotic, where he would jungle and then come out and gank and be this presence coming back and forth. And I really wanted to, we really wanted to emphasize the fact that he could jungle a lot better. I always felt like he was a very piss poor jungler, and so bringing it up to the SP tiers and the other playtesters and stuff that we worked out was, that a pulsing damage would increase his jungle viability by leaps and bounds, and it really does. The shield plus the pulse really allows him to jungle effectively. But also, when you've got that slow aura on, you're right on top of somebody. They're attacking 15% slower. Their movement speed is 15% slower, and their attack's 10% slower, and they're and you've got this pulsing damage just beating on them as you're hitting them, and your obliterate's running. You can actually really pump out a solid amount of damage if you're on top of somebody, and you are really effective. So it goes both ways, but it really will put him in that jungling role, I think.
Definitely. Panda, anything to add to Cthulhuphant here?
It's not too much. Looks like Waz covered most of it. Let's say it's definitely interesting. Cthulhuphant's being with as you said, addition of his Hook'em, where you're going to see him be a little more aggressive than you're used to him, kind of just being this walking guy that you kind of hope just goes away. So he will become a lot more threatening. You will have to worry about him, or else he will kill you.
It will happen. Ace, what are your thoughts on Cthulhuphant change?
I actually got a few questions that are just trying to brush all this out. So for trample, launch distance is increased by 300 units. Is that when you hit someone to push them back, or what? Or is that just actually traveling 300 units farther on the skill?
That is the creep launch distance.
Oh, and is that going to be?
So the creeps will go further.
Okay.
And
is there a reason for that in particular, or just for looks? You're trying to cause some chaos on there, trying to launch some creeps a little too far.
It's definitely a quality of life change that will allow him to be able to have a little more forgiving. Be a little more forgiving when hitting people in lane, or when you're laning him, or when you're trying to manage the creeps, because we did find that a lot of the people were having hard times. They could hit people with the Q, but they're having hard times lining up both the Q and the creeps.
Yeah, as well as I expressed, we want to have Cthulhuphant's a hero that you can lane and you can jungle, and realistically, the reasons you pick him up is when you can start comboing up with a couple fun heroes. Demanded Shaman is one of the most iconic ones. So I wanted to reinforce that niche a little more of, if you do pick him up for that kind of combination, we want to reward you greater for it. So adding more to your drafting options of, adding more to your synergy, encouraging more team play, more group play, more to your lane combinations. So it's a change that will really help out for certain combinations.
Yeah, another thing that I noticed too is that the stun duration on that too is almost doubled, which I don't know. I was just playing a game where Milkbat was Cthulhu, and that stun, you can hit like 4 people with that stun, and now they're locked down double as long. I feel like he's gonna be big. There's gonna be a big elephant in the room, and he's
Big
gonna do some
plays.
damage.
I would agree.
So I'm excited. As
Cthulhu's
always.
going to be a fun hero to look. Hey, this is, and again, who knows where the competitive scene's going to go from here in terms of what heroes we're going to start seeing. And obviously, there's a lot more changes that are going to have an impact too, with the jungle change, like we talked about, with the tower change and whatnot. So, and just heroes in general. But it would be fun to see this kind of a mechanic in Cthulhuphant making a splash and make Emperor proud. You knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one in line, I think that's good on Cthulhuphant here. Who's going to be the next one? Let's do Shadowblade. Let me bring up Shadowblade here real quickly.
Shadowblade.
I like this. I like these changes a lot. All right, so here we go. Shadowblade. Always been a huge fan of the concept of this hero. And glad to see personally, these changes that he's getting, specifically buffs that we're seeing across the board. So with that said, all his forms, so his Q, W, and E, the Essence, or not the Essence Shift, but the Gargantuan Blast, the Faint Siphon, and the E form, whatever it's called. Soul Sight. All those are getting increased from 11 seconds to 15 seconds they'll last for now, so 4 more extra seconds. The Essence Shift actually got its mana cost lowered. Its cast range doubled, which is crazy. Can now take the primary stat of whatever form you are using with the ult on yourself. No longer interrupts movement on cast and can now be boosted by Staff of the Master. Staff of the Master effect is also very interesting. Look at that right there. Cooldown lowered from 30 to 5 seconds. While in strength, you gain cleave. While in agility, you gain unit walking and true strike. While in intellect, you mind control everybody. No, that doesn't happen. All attacks drain mana from target equal to 80% of your intelligence. So, Shadowblade, get in the rework here.
Yes.
What's the deal?
All right, so first I want to clarify a few things. As a lot of people have come to me with questions about Shadowblade, things that they don't quite understand. So there's two first things. The patch notes were actually not updated. The 60, 80, 100% cleave is not the actual percentage. And now it's actually 30, 50, 70. So a lot of people thought that, the 100% cleave was too much, and we changed it pretty late in the iteration process. So
Okay.
it missed the patch notes, and it was given an old one. The second thing is, a lot of people came to me and they're like, Wazza, you're crazy. You burn that much mana off of people, plus his 80% bonus damage he's getting. His informs is going to be insane. There's a difference between drain mana and burn mana. So this won't be burning mana. It will not be doing double. It will not be doing that damage and burned mana. It will actually only be taking the mana from the person and giving it to you. So it won't be doing extra bonus damage on top of that.
All
But
right.
yeah.
So there you go. Panda, anything to add to Shadowblade?
Not too much. I mean, the changes are pretty straightforward. It's the nice thing about I'm as someone that likes to min max, and I'm a personal huge fan of Shadowblade. So this is it's the biggest thing I'd have to comment on is, while Staff the Master looks very appealing, is the Gargantuan Blast, the Soul Sight, and the Faint Siphon. Those all last an extended duration, so it adds more to your customization of you're not forced out of that form immediately as the cooldown's up. So it's going to remove a lot more of the mana strains, especially in the laning phase, for when you do choose to use Soul Sight to get some extra last hits. You're not that extra 4 seconds can actually be the difference between another creep kill or a deny.
Do you guys think this is one of these heroes that's... I assume he doesn't have the most amount of play compared to other heroes. So he's probably lower on the list, I would think. Is that safe?
He certainly is one of the lower played ones. But then the nice thing about Shadowblade is the crowd that he does have or the crowd that really enjoys him. They can't really find his playstyle anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's something we really want to promote more, is with the unique playstyle like Shadowblades, with that amount of customization.
Yeah.
We want him to encourage him more. We want those options to remain available. We want to really add to that playstyle that he already offers.
Well, that's what I was getting at. I mean, this does seem like a hero, maybe a little bit more, obviously, thinking involved, a little bit more, having to, as you said, like min-maxing. You have to, go into this form at this time, take over this essence of this player for this stat, buff and whatnot. So that may be the thing, if anything, that's keeping players from overwhelmingly play this hero. But yeah, I've always thought this hero is obviously a crazy cool concept, and definitely seeing these buffs once again is really cool to see. So we'll see if he kind of jumps up now. But
I definitely think one of the most exciting things will be, and things that a lot of people are overlooking, is the Staff of the Master is also changing the cooldown from 30 seconds to 5 seconds.
yeah,
So you're getting this more on the fly customization where it's like, oh man, they have a Night Hound. I'm going to switch to the True Strike. Boom. I'm in. Night Hound doesn't matter. Oh, all right, that team fight's over. Looks like I need to go farm. Switch over to
and you can use it on yourself now for the primary stat. So
right.
You go into form, you use it on yourself. 5 seconds later, it calls for another thing. You just use it on yourself again for that other form. Yeah.
Right. So now I think that a lot of people will have a lot more fun playing the hero because now there's just all these different things that you can do for different situations that you couldn't previously.
And Staff, that's something we always talk about with Staff of the Master in general. And a lot of these heroes, like Sandwraith, like, come on, who's going to buy Staff of the Master on Sandwraith? As cool as the effect is, that's just not a build-up item that you would see on a hero like Sandwraith. Shadowblade, this seems like a very powerful. This is a hero, if any, that this item actually makes a lot of sense on. It's a hero that brings in all the attributes together, and that's what the item does, obviously, and plus the buff to it. So I can see Staff of the Master Shadowblade being a very primary build, even.
Yeah, I hope so.
Now, what about you, Ace?
I gotta say, first I'm gonna preface this with Shadowblade is just pure badass. It's always been one of my favorite characters from that point of view, where it's cool to play. When you want to, you can be ranged. When you want to, you can be this big beast of a tank, and then when you want to, you can jump to people and just do some mean damage.
Yeah.
Either way, with that said, I think one of the coolest things. Well, actually, let me step back one step and say that I'm pretty sure I inspired Waza to make this change. Now, I know that's a bold claim.
Credit to Ace Jr.
But, on occasion, Waza Peruzzi walks around the office and he's like, oh, yeah, what do you think about this? I'm trying to change up some Shadowblade. What are you trying to, you have any ideas for it? And, the ever so brilliant Ace JR says, oh, yeah, maybe if you use your ability for agility, you should be able to get some sort of cool, add-on for the agility power. And lo and behold, look at this change. Whoa.
Weird.
So, with that said, and putting all the credit to myself, I would like to say that I think it's going to be really cool bonus. I like picking up Staff of the Master. I know it's not a competitive thing to do, but when you're playing in game, it's fun to, have a little mid-wars fun and go to town with some cool effects. So 100% cleave. You can't ask for more than that. Like, I don't know. Walk in some True Strike, badass, and then at the same time, just being a pure beast in intelligence form. So overall, I think it's gonna be pretty cool. I think people are gonna like it. So
it should be. So yeah, big changes there with the rework to Shadowblade. Panda, do you want to add anything else? I don't know if you want to say something there.
No, I was just going to say you shouldn't be dissing Sandwraith with Staff of the Master.
I'm not saying it's bad. Okay, so I'm not saying it's bad, but you think like a Polywog Priest or who's another great example? Not Bomber, but anyway, something like that where Staff of the Master actually makes sense on, and then you get a Sandwraith. It's like, okay, that doesn't make as much sense, but yeah,
I'm not giving it to you.
I think we've talked about this in the past, and
Staff Masters are tricky beasts, okay? Because you want to give something fun, but you don't want to. You want to get something fun and different, but you don't want to make it so cool and impactful that players feel like it's a mandatory item. So it's hard to find that balance, and also you have to find heroes that want it, but can also farm it.
Yeah.
So like a perfect example would be like Rhapsody. The Staff of the Master is really cool. It allows her to move while channeling. That gives her a lot of utility. It's really helpful in team fights. It gets rid of a clear weakness. But can she farm it? So Staff of the Masters, they run the gambit of really hard to try to find a good place for most Staff of the Masters. Thankfully, Shadowblade, loving to get stats, this kind of fits right in.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, we've had the Staff of the Master patch. Maybe we'll have another one in the future. Who knows?
Oh yeah, we're always looking for staffs.
With, more staff changes coming in for like Berserker and stuff. Wait, he has one. Booyah! All right. All right. So the last rework that we wanted to talk about here is that's coming to this patch. And this is actually already getting a lot of attention in chat. Even I've noticed. This seems like one of the bigger ones. One of the ones that people are really looking at and being like, "Do I like this or do I hate it?" kind of deals. Silhouette coming out right here. Silhouette.
Yeah, I
The
heard she got
base stats. What's up?
I heard she got changed.
Here she got changed. May have happened. We're not sure. According to the patch notes, this is a thing. The base stats, the attack range lowered from 600 to 350, ladies and gentlemen.
What?
That is a hit.
What are these guys thinking?
Intelligence gain increased by 5. That's quite a bit. Intelligence per level increased from 1.7 to 2. That too is quite a bit. Turn rate increased just on top of that. Death Load has taken some changes there, as you can see. Tree Grapple, the cooldown decrease, the mana cost change even reduced at the later levels. The stun duration changed to just a static 1 second, and now it'll actually cost mana as well to cast the Log Bolas, as it's called, or whatever. And then no longer disarm while traveling in Skydance, which I guess is cool. Relentless Salvo also changed to an extent. The cooldown actually reworked, be a lot less at level 4 especially. Attack speed bonus even more at all levels. Damage increased per stack. Enemy state duration from 3 to 10 seconds it lasts for now. Charge limit increased from 5 to 15. And now even the illusions add charges, but will not deal bonus damage based on those charges. And then the Shadow, her ultimate, getting some changes across the board as well, including the cooldown change to lower at all levels and static 80 seconds. Mana cost nerfed as well, or actually buffed in that sense to made less. Duration actually lasts a little bit longer. The damage actually, the damage they receive actually lessened, and then the damage they deal made now 100%. Swap cooldown buffed, swap mana buffed. I felt like I said buffed a lot there.
Yes.
And improved a lot there with Silhouette. Other than the 600 to 350 range.
There is a good reason for this,
All
I
right.
promise.
Here we go. Ace Jr., explain why these happen.
I can go through it. So let's see. We did this to Relentless Salvo, blah, blah, blah.
All right. So Waza, what's the deal? Why?
Okay.
Why?
All right. So to explain this, again, I'm always, I love being just blunt and candid, and I feel like a lot of the people in our community deserve to be talked to straight and not to get the runaround. And the fact of the matter is we, as designers, do make mistakes. We do screw up. And I think Silhouette was one of those situations where we felt that the 600 range was needed for so long that we, in order to compensate for her, we continuously nerfed her skills. And it was her skills that were making her fun to play in the first part. You know, it's what defined who she was. And we kept going, okay, well, nerf this, nerf that. All right, this is that way, this is this way. Well, okay, she's still owning everyone. Okay, oh, now they're buying Portkey. Okay, nerf abilities, nerf the abilities. And then we got to a point where eventually it was just too far, and she had fallen out of good graces, and she went way lower than we wanted her to. So we looked at trying to bring her back to what she was originally designed to be, and that was a massively fast, mobile, this ninja. We really wanted to get this ninja theme play style, high mobile ganker, and we wanted that to be realized. So we decided the only way to do this is to really let what was supposed to shine again, and that's her abilities. So in order to bring her abilities and let them be the forefront of the hero, let that play style be the forefront, we had to find a way to compensate. And the only way to do that, of course, was to take her 600 range, and we dropped it all the way down to 250 at the beginning. So we get her into testing. She has 250 range. For all intents and purposes, she's pretty much a melee hero. And she was getting crushed in the laning phase. She was just getting dominated. But she was still coming out at the end of the game, late game, mid game. She'd pick up and she'd find her farm and she'd be all right. And everybody's like, man, this is the most fun. Oh, I love this rework. This is so much fun. Oh, this is great. I love that you're doing this. I love that you're doing that. This is the most fun but the laning phase sucks. And it was just a constant battle trying to get the laning phase. So we upped the range to 250 to 350. We increased the swap cooldown on because we had lowered it to next to nothing. And then all of a sudden she started to shine. She really started to hit her groove, and she is just she's just a shit ton of fun, man.
Yeah.
Just at the end of the day, all her abilities now, we've lowered a lot of mana cost. We've lowered a lot of cooldowns. We've increased the range of tree grapple. We've allowed you to no longer be disarmed while flying through the air, and we've done all these things to really emphasize this burst damage, high mobile hero, and you can really feel it. I think tree grapple is the biggest set of changes on the hero. Um, I think that people look and see the stun duration has gone down, but all in all, having the cooldown at 7 seconds, I mean, you're flying through the air like constantly. You're all over the place, and it's really cool. There's a lot more uses from Shadow, and all around, I think this is where we needed to go with this here the whole time, and I think she's finally in a spot that she should have been, and people will enjoy, and we have to keep a close eye on it because it's rare that we buff a hero so much in so many places, and I don't think a hero has received this many substantial buffs all at once
Yeah.
in a long time. So we will be keeping a close eye on this. If she turns out, that she is just wrecking shop, which she didn't in testing, but if she turns out to be wrecking shop, then we will be quick to adjust. I also wanted to say that with watching the testers and playing it myself, the skill level is still there. That high skill cap and silhouette that people enjoy, it's still there. So I don't think that people are just going to be face rolling her in pubs. I don't think that she's going to go out and start crushing kids. I think that people who were good with her and knew how to use her abilities will still own with her, and they'll get that enjoyment. I think people who don't get all the nuances are going to still have a hard time reaching that skill cap for her. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. In the near future.
Going off that point, that's the thing for me. It's like this hero has a very high skill cap, I think it's safe to say, and when you put it in the right hands of a very experienced player, it definitely is going to be interesting to see what they're going to be able to do with it, because she does have a good amount of carry potential, especially with that change to the ultimate of hers even. I mean, the Shadow ability now dealing 100% damage, taking less damage in the process, more effective just all across the board, the cooldown and everything. It's going to be pretty crazy to see, this is a hero that I could definitely see popping up right away in the competitive scene after these changes. So, Panda, any thoughts on Silhouette? Anything further to add to with her?
Not too much. It's mostly just a lot of changes. Very, very hesitant and curious, but as Waz said, this is something we're going to be monitoring very closely.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Ace?
Well, yeah, I'll speak up over here. Yeah, some big things that just popped up in my head when I was reading through this patch note, or these patch notes, especially on Silhouette, is her ultimate. Okay, so not only is it reduced mana cost, reduced cooldown, but I think one of the biggest changes right here is that now the illusion not only does 100% of the damage, but also only takes 100% damage. It doesn't take increased damage for being an illusion. So my question is right here, how are you gonna decide? It's gonna be really hard to tell which one's the real one, which one's not the real one. It's gonna be like having two silhouettes just coming up in both forms, just dealing massive damage the whole time. Like, I feel like that's almost one of the bigger parts of this rework than all these other changes
That's
here.
true.
Like, that's ridiculous.
That's a good point.
And it lasts longer. I mean, I don't know. Like, let's talk on that, Waza. Let's see some answers. All right.
So no, that is one of the key points of the ultimate changes was to the Shadow is supposed to be a deception. It's supposed to be different than other illusions, and quite frankly, most illusions, I can't even think of an illusion that works differently, where it's just you hit them with a quick one, you shoot them one time, and you instantly know, that's an illusion. We can mess around with this. We really wanted to play off the deception. We wanted him, and now keep in mind, it's only at the 16th level that you start to get that 1-for-1 ratio. Yeah. But we really wanted to pull that across, and we did it in a way that you can tell when you're getting, just from how people are acting and swapping and moving around, that you can tell more from the actions of the player than the amount of damage they're taking, and it does give a lot more of a deceptive feel than before, without increasing the power too much.
I think it's one of those cases of you're still going to want to kill it anyways because it's still in that 100% damage. I mean, you're not going to want to blow everything on it because you won't get the kill credit in the end. You won't get the bonus gold and whatnot. But in the end, you will want to kill it because it is doing that damage. But yeah, no, I could definitely see where Ace is coming from, though. That's something I didn't even think about until you brought that up. But as you're pointing out, I mean, the deception, that most certainly is a deception. And it's going to be, we're going to have a lot of rage moments, I'm sure.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to, just use it as deception, you just want to push with it. That's just 2 heroes pushing. That's all that is.
That's the Moon Queen effect. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's extreme. It's extreme. The swap is extremely effective.
It is.
It's cool. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I'm gonna, I don't know, pose a few of these questions that people have been asking. So someone's asking about how it wants some more explanation about the salvo and how it's going to work and what are the real specifics on it. And I don't know, just more of a, I guess, description on how it'll work in comparison to the old salvo.
Yeah, the 3 to 10 seconds is big. The charge limit increased to 15. Like, how are these changes going to affect?
So Relentless Salvo works just like Relentless Salvo.
All right, thank you, Waza.
These are solid number buffs. These aren't mechanical changes, so you're not seeing Salvo play or act differently. It's you get more charges, so you build up more damage. It's doing more damage per stack. It's lasting. You got 3 to 10 seconds. You get a cap of 15 now. So pretty much the same, just a lot stronger.
All right.
So I don't know how to answer the question.
But a lot
changes
stronger.
are really. I guess the only confusing thing would be the illusions, but
yeah.
So illusion builds up stacks.
It allows you to do more damage, but
right. So you'll do more damage. So you'll hit that 15 cap stack because let's be honest, a lot of times you're not going to hit somebody 15 times. You're not going to attack them. But you'll be able to achieve that a lot better with the attack speed buff. And if your shadow is building up stacks as well. Yeah. So I guess that would be the only thing. But illusions will not do the bonus damage, but they'll add to the stack count.
Okay.
But other than that, it is working just the same as normal salvo.
I have another question. And that question, actually more of a comment on this silhouette, is that now you can attack while you're flying through the air.
Yeah.
I'm no doctor, but that sounds cool.
Right. So a large part of the job is me just going, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if, and then we do it. No. So a lot of people will realize that there is a Skydance and a Log Bolus have 2 different kind of purposes now with these changes. And Log Bolus is something that costs a good chunk of mana now, and Skydance is free. And as well, Skydance no longer disarms you. So you can now fly through the air and go towards an enemy, stun them, and you can attack while you're flying through the air. So it's this really cool thing.
Yeah.
And the reason why it doesn't cost mana and Log Bolus does is because we felt that Skydance promotes the playstyle that we're looking for, which is the go onto an enemy and unleash doom. It was inflating that playstyle. We wanted to support that, and at the same time, Log Bolus. I mean, there's a risk to when you just do Skydance. You're putting yourself in danger's path. You're going on top of an enemy, or you're going into the team fight. So it's really putting you in danger's way. Whereas Log Bolus is a free, huge ass range stun, where you just bring it, you bring a tree to yourself and you get it, which is why Log Bolus has a mana cost. So we add that clear difference that you actually have to pay more because it's more risk-free to Log Bolus than it is to Skydance.
I don't want to take up too much time on Silhouette, but people are asking questions, so I'm going to throw them out there again. With illusions, if you get hexed by poly or by just having a sheep's, does it kill the illusion? Did Brady say that?
We didn't say that, but I would assume it would. It
Yeah,
kills the shadow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then last but not least is, how's their laning presence after these changes? Improved, worsened? Like,
Well,
how kind of what are the effects on it?
Yeah, no, it's worse.
Okay.
But I think that's where that balance comes in. I mean, that's
yeah. So here,
what
and that's
allowed.
the balance in it is 600 range on this hero with the building of the stacks made her an amazing harassing monster in lane. You could put her in a solo short lane, and that's what a lot of people do. What she was being played competitively is solo short, and she would farm and harass bubbles or whatever the suicide was completely out of the lane. You can't do that with 350 range. You just
No.
can't. However, what I did notice about her laning phase is there'll be a point where she will get off a few auto attacks and get a few harass on somebody, and then she'll just throw out that tree grapple, go in on somebody, and lay out a huge amount of burst damage. So when you're laning against her, while it's kind of easy to lane against a hero that has that low range, she does always carry this threat.
I'm gonna come at you. And
I'm gonna get you
ready.
and
Yeah.
unload. So, but no, her laning phase is definitely taking a dive.
Yeah. And like I said, but when you buff everything else, you got to nerf something somewhere. So I think that's where that balance comes into play. But yeah, it sounds like this is, you made a great point. You don't think you've ever made this many buffs to one hero going into a patch. So gonna keep a close eye on this one.
And
changes are
definitely
needed.
was giving me a lot of dirty looks when I was like, we can do one more, right?
It's a love-hate relationship over there. All right, so I think we have covered a good amount, though, when it comes to these reworks and the new hero, so I think it is time to move on here. Again, got a lot to talk about still, and as it goes on, won't be as much to talk about, of course, but still, there is plenty to talk about when it comes down to it. So let's move on. I don't have an image for you guys, but I do got the patch notes itself. Let's move on to a couple of these general changes. These aren't hero-specific. These are just general changes that happened within this patch, 3.4 Rising Tide. Okay, so there's definitely some big ones here, too. And the first one that we're going to talk about, this has been a very controversial one already, and understandably so, because this is one of these things that affects, it's a change. It's a change as far as your comfort factor goes. As a player, what I'm talking about, of course, the camera zoom distance. We've allowed the maximum camera zoom distance to be increased largely as a quality of life change, as it says. The default of the maximum in-game camera distance has been increased from 1650 to 1850 units. So it may be hard to understand what that means, maybe reading that on text. But I believe in what it comes down to. If I'm not mistaken, you can pretty much go out as far as you could as a spectator.
Well, spectator is actually 2,000.
Is it a little bit? Okay, so it's a little bit longer as a spectator even.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's kind of in between then of like being able to move out a little bit. So, John or Panda, it sounds like you want to give your insight on this though.
Oh, okay. So the biggest thing with this is you read it out offhand, and you're looking. It's a pretty considerable number difference. I will admit, it takes some getting used to. I was very, very resistant to it at first, but this was one of the opportunities to try it in SPT, and after playing a few games with it, I've actually come to it's definitely grown on me as something I appreciate a lot more.
Okay.
The nice thing about it is, part of the reasons for it rather is team fights. Team fights have become very chaotic. I mean, even again, when you're not a spectator and you don't have that 2,000 distance view, just watching player streams or even when we're playing yourself, when you're in the middle of a big team fight, there's a lot of stuff going on. You don't ever really grasp the whole picture. It will end up happening is there's these little individual skirmishes here and there, and it doesn't really make you feel like you're a part of the whole experience. Mm-hmm. So, with the focus with this is to give a little more readability to the players, let you see a little bit more of what's going on. There's the unfortunate downside or argument of Devourer hooks and Valkyrie skill shots being much harder to land. And to be honest, if those do become an issue, we can address that when the time comes. But we are going to be watching it very closely. I very much implore you guys to try this and see what you guys' opinions are.
Well, yeah, I think I kind of put it right there. I was going to bring that up, so I'm glad you did. I mean, that's really, I think, the thing that people may be worried about. And I know I've talked to some pro players that knew about this change, and that was their concern. You got these hooks, these hook abilities, these skill shots that where you try to set it up in the dark and kind of catch them off guard. This means they have 200 more range now to be able to see that before it would hit them. So I assume that you thought about that obviously with going into this, but it sounds like you're just going to monitor it.
It's not as big. Just experiencing and testing, it's not as big as I think some of the complaints are being exaggerated out to be. Keep in mind, this does not change your sight distance, so you will not see any more in fog. If they're standing in the trees and they throw a hook out, they're still you're still only going to see the hook from as far as you can see, as far as your hero's sight vision is concerned. And you need to also keep in mind this is an extra 200 units across their whole screen, which is only going to be 100 units per side on average. Which if that's going to be the difference between you responding to one of these skills is 100 units, I mean, more power to you.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
I have to admit, I am very impressed if you can make the difference in those milliseconds.
So it may just be one of those things, on paper, again, it may seem like it's a lot bigger of a deal than it really is.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it will have an effect, but it's one of those things where I implore you guys to try it out before
making the comments.
before creating such harsh judgment.
Yeah.
So again, I have to admit, I was very, very reluctant to trying it, but it's definitely growing
this
on
is
me.
one of those like almost like, I don't want to say like sacred things by any means, but I mean there's some heroes that's like they've been just a very like Behemoth. I remember way in the past we talked about when he first changed like its fissure son or whatever. It's like this is a very sacred hero, man. He's been since the beginning. Are you sure you want to do this? So, but not afraid to take that leap sometimes. And
yeah, just with any of our changes or any of our patches, we're going to be watching it very closely. If you guys do have feedback regarding it, I mean, both positive and negative, honestly, I actually appreciate reading the negative feedback more. Please feel free to post it on our forums. Our staff visits it regularly.
Yeah.
This game is being changed for you guys, so we want to make sure everyone's happy.
Yeah, I will vouch for that. Both Waza and every time I go in their office, it seems like they got the forums pulled up and are reading posts. That is definitely happening. So
Yeah. If I could hit on that real quick,
Waza.
I like being very candid with you guys, and I read the forums. Panda reads the forums. Burrow reads the forums. We are on the forums like 80% of our job is like just taking your feedback. And I don't think you guys realize we're in the suggestion forums. We're in the hero draft forums. And now we don't have time to reply to everything, but we hear all and we read all. And if you post something on our forums that is coherent and constructive, we are listening. We are reading it. We are talking about it. The competitors, Swindle Melons, Insania, Sender, they have been talking to us in weekly balance chats for well over a year now. Okay, we listen to everyone. So don't think we're just sitting on some ivory tower back here just like doing derp-a-doo. Let's give Silhouette 15 buffs. We are very adamantly and always intently listening to what you guys have to say.
There you go. So, with that said, Waza, anything else to add to this? Camera zoom, or you think Panda covered it?
Yeah,
bro?
no. So Panda hit it. It's not that big. You'll notice the change, but it won't affect gameplay that much. It's just a solid quality of life change.
All right, Ace. Any reaction you've
bring
been
it.
seeing?
I mean, yeah, obviously quality of life change, but I'm gonna bring that mid-wars perspective in here. Now you won't get hooked by a Devo or Prisoner without seeing them on the screen.
Well,
Am I right to assume that?
I'm still gonna get hooked just because I can't dodge it anyways.
Well,
but,
yeah, I mean,
even
skill aside.
specific to mid wars, a lot of the opportunities for hooks and skill shots like that, and it's not like they're throwing it when they're off of your screen. If they're off of your screen, it's usually because of the fog or uphill vision. That's often why you see people buying like observation awards in those games, but. It's not like Prisoner's standing in the trees, and then even if he is standing in the trees, he wouldn't be able to react anyways.
Yeah.
But most of the time, when you get hooked in those scenarios, it's not because you couldn't see it on the screen, but it's because just you didn't have the uphill vision.
I'd like to blame I can't see it on the screen. So
Well, I also.
All right. Well, if you want an excuse, that's what this.
And
is
I
for.
also heard the concerns that, like, as a player, like, you're so used to this distance that, like, when you're trying to line up stuns with, like, a torture or whatever, where exactly you can go on your screen to hit that stun. But I guess my answer to that, my reaction to that, is that you don't have to zoom out all the way if you don't want to. You can keep it at 1650, what it has been all this time, if you want to. I mean, you don't have to zoom it out. So there is that part to it too, if it really is too much of a change for you. So there you go. All right, I think it's time to move on here with the patch. Let's take a look at another one here. Hero kill gold change. Kind of interesting actually seeing the numbers on this. Proximity hero kills lowered from 30 plus 5 per level to 0 plus 7 per level. So sounds like it's a lot. You want to explain though again what this actually means here?
Just touching on it real quick. The incentive for a grouping early game, I mean, just taking, as you see commonly, you take, especially with junglers or push heroes, you get heroes that go and you're having towers, tier 1 and tier 2 towers taken down like before 10 minutes. I mean, it's a little bit difficult to combat. So the part, and not only that, but you also have, it's common for heroes to be running around as like packs of 3 or 4, just looking for individual hero kills. Even in the event that they do finally find one, even if it's after 2 minutes, it ends up more than paying off.
Yeah.
So this is really just to punish the early game grouping. We feel like there's been a little bit too much of an emphasis on early game grouping, so there's not really a clear response for you to respond other than to group yourself, in which case
the train's going out.
Yeah. So, and the nice thing to know is that this actually increases the gold later on when group fights should be happening, and there's a lot more clear objectives and a lot more decisive game factors. That's when you're going to notice the gold actually going up at the later stages.
All right, makes sense. Next change here, we got the lane creeps. Again, kind of another interesting one here. On the basic level, may not look like too much, but on an advanced level, definitely could seem like it make a big change. 5th melee creep spawns at 45 minutes instead of 33 minutes. However, the double range creep now spawns at 33 minutes instead of 45 minutes. So again, explanation for that change there.
It's mostly just adding a little bit more relevance to the ranged interacts much earlier on. If you've noticed, you can generally kill the melee racks because you outright know that one's better, even if it is a little bit more difficult. So I just wanted to add a little bit more emphasis to the ranged racks.
All right, simple enough. Okay.
Yeah, I got nothing to add on that one.
Well, yeah, no, these are just a couple, like I said, Panda could
grinding through
brief
them,
explanation, and we're good to go. This one, though, maybe a little bit more discussion. Okay, so neutral creeps. Neutral creeps. Here we go. The jungle. Several changes happening. I'm not going to read them all off here, but as you can see on your screen, it definitely receiving a good amount of change, including some new creeps in general. We got new creeps at, what are we talking about here? A new neutral Pustula, I guess, has the Kamikaze ability. Kamikaze causes the Pustulas to explode, leaving a goo on the ground that slows enemies. How about that? Antler Necromancer is a new one. Raises dead ability, summoning zomblings? Zomblings, okay. Interesting.
There's zombie-lings.
Now has a far side ability, so yeah, we get a new ability there. And then has a transmute ability, an Alchemist Ogre. Transmute instantly destroys another non-hero unit. How about that? Interesting. All right, so these jungle changes, neutrals. Who wants to start with this one?
Oh, this is super cool stuff, but we'll give it to Pandaroohoo, man. He's worked hard on this.
Right.
I mean, as far as adding in the new kinds of creeps, we just wanted to make sure that with every single camp, you're getting a little bit more interaction. There's a little bit more options for your heroes like Ophelia, Parasite, or even when you pick up like a Whispering Helm, that you don't walk by, a wolf commander. You don't walk by like a wolf camp and say, well, this sucks, I can't reuse my helm. So
yeah.
Just adding a little bit more to that. As far as the actual changes for numbers of golden experience values, this touches back a little bit on what I've been excited to see. This is a pretty substantial change to the jungle, but the basic premise behind it is we want the jungle to be much more forgiving for a lot of your heroes, because realistically we have a lot of junglers in the game, but a lot of them have a much more difficult time, and that's why we feel like it's a little bit too hard for them to actually be viable in the game. So we wanted to make sure that heroes like Raw, you start seeing more heroes like Raw, Predator, Sulfuras, like they can be viable junglers. I'm not saying they're going to be the most effective, but just adding more to the options. The goal is to increase the number of heroes that can viably jungle.
Yeah. So it's lessening that gap is the goal. I mean, right now we got Tempest, Ophelia, and Parasite. I think you can throw Keeper of the Forest in there, sure, but I think he's more because of what he brings to the table outside of the jungle. Even.
Yeah, it is rather unfortunate when you consider even a partially competitive play where you think jungler, your immediate instinct goes to Keeper of the Forest. You said Ophelia, Parasite, and Tempest. Those four, you don't really have an option outside of that. So we wanted to hit it at the core problem and say, why are these heroes so popular, and why aren't the other ones viable if the jungle is as important as everyone says? Realistically, it's because it's not even just specific to those heroes. It's how fast they can clear it. And we could solve the problem by giving those heroes continual nerfs until they are down to the point. But then you start running into the issues of why if you nerf their abilities so much, you start removing the reasons why they're picked up to begin with. So you want to normalize the efficiency a little bit. You want to make sure that if you pick up an Ophelia compared to a like Solstice, it's not because she's can farm 300 GPM faster than Solstice. It's because you want to take advantage of her pushing towers and ganking.
I think it's important to note out of all this too is that again the idea that this is not to remove jungle by any means altogether. I think you guys would both agree. Jungle is a very important part of the game that you still want to see as part of the game. But it's as we've kind of gone to is you want to include more jungle.
The sheer fact of the matter is no matter how many people want to complain about the jungle or complain about this, Tempest, Keeper, Parasite, a lot of the troubled jungle heroes they were getting too much farm. They're being way too effective. They're hitting their levels way too soon, and it was allowing them to get their core items and their game switching items too soon. Plain and simple. The jungle was providing too much experience. It was giving too much gold, and that's just fact. We've done that. We've reduced it. The heroes that didn't need to get nerfed in this, that didn't need to get hit, like Solstice and like those
Legionnaire.
who Predator or Jungle or Legionnaire, those heroes won't see such a significant hit. They'll see things business like usual. While things did get nerfed, the earlier and lighter creep camps got buffed, and in fact, those heroes play much of the same. It really, and the design is the design of this was really tuned to really affecting those heroes that were being troublesome in the jungle.
Adam, Ace Jr., any comments on the jungle changes here?
Yeah. I think that these jungle changes are going to be cool because of all the different abilities that are adding to the jungles. I know you guys talked more about how, heroes, trying to make more heroes viable in the jungle, or at least an option. From the Pustula Kamikaze ability, that's cool. You get someone with the Helm of the Dominator and you roll on in, throw a Bombardier bomb on him. Now you got an Ultra bomb. It's like all this stuff adds up. It's
I cannot wait till we talk about Bombardier because Ace was ready.
Yeah, that along with Farsight. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that in SBT myself. I jump in a game on a rare occasion, but that seems like it could be pretty useful. And then on top of that, now you have an Alchemist Ogre which can transmute.
That's the most interesting one to me.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you can buy a Helm of the Dominator instead of Alchemist Bones
Black
and just
Legion.
take over an Alchemist Ogre, and boom, bada bing, you got your Alchemist Bones for free.
You got heroes like Puppet Master, like Moon Queen, that this is a build on them when they go to the jungle. I could see this as being the new tactic, that we're going to look for an Alchemist Ogre, take that over. I assume it doesn't give bonus gold, though, like Alchemist Bones do.
Correct. It doesn't give it. It doesn't give additional
and gives
gold.
you the gold.
Yeah.
So it's just a quicker way to kill them. Yeah. So I was gonna say, if it actually gives you bonus gold on top of that,
crazy.
We may need.
You might be onto something, Breaky.
We may need it. All right. But yeah, no, not to go off Ace, but I'm on board with you, man. I'm looking forward to seeing the impact that these new creeps may have.
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting thing. And then I know we've changed around a lot of the camps to their positioning or how many are in each camp, but just they're new things in the game, which I'm always excited for. So I don't know.
There you go. All right, so yeah, there you go. Jungle changes there again. This is going to be one of those. And now, after the World Finals we just had, we're kind of resetting things like we had before after a Haunter season and a new competitive scene. Maybe new teams coming up and new tactics going to be evolving over time, and that's going to be fun to watch. It really is a good time and a fun time right now when it comes to competitive heroes and newer. So can't wait to see on that. And speaking of another change that may have impact on all that, the tower changes as well. Tower attacks now pierce 25% of all your armor. Summoned melee units damage multiplier against towers lowered from 70 to 50%. Does not affect the lane creeps, however. Player-controlled neutrals damage multiplier against towers lowered from 70 to 50%. So basically the minion push, the Balfagor, the Keep of the Forest, those minions getting nerfed really against these tower pushes, and it does more damage to you in return with the armor pierce. So why?
In short, it's essentially just adding a little bit more late game relevance to these towers. You've seen very early on in Heroes, you can pick up like an early Sacrificial Stone or Plated Greaves, and you start seeing the tower damage just become irrelevant, especially on the outer towers. So just keeping it a little bit more relevant there. As far as the reduced damage to towers, that's really just punishing hero lineups that specifically focus on pushing. When you have your focus, like heroes like Keeper of the Forest or Balfagor, the majority of the damage from those push lineups should be coming from the heroes. I mean, you should be contributing, not necessarily the summoned minions. The summoned minions, I mean, the benefit of having those summoned minions there is they can tank a lot of the damage. So we just wanted to keep a little bit more of that focus of make sure that there's a little bit more response time for teams dealing with these kinds of lineups.
All right. Anything else to add on that, Waza, or not really? Covered it.
I'm good as well.
Okay. All right, so there you go. That's those are the general changes on top of the hero reworks, and then of course the new heroes. So those are the bigger topics there that we got over. It took just over an hour, not too shabby there. So hopefully you guys got some good feedback on that. Again, feel free to ask more questions. Maybe by the end, once we're done here, overall, then maybe we can go back to those if anything, or even throughout. But again, we also want to keep moving along here. So. With that said, the next hero actually, let's just kind of start going in alphabetical order here at this point. So again, these are more the balance changes overall with certain heroes. Some of these pretty minor in the end, won't spend too much time, maybe just glance at it and then move on. But other ones, a little bit of discussion. So the first one we'll start with is good old artillery. This guy's been has been getting changed a bit lately, and yet another change here in the latest patch specifically to LRM. Touch radius increase, a lifetime lowered, which actually means it reaches its maximum distance sooner, which is a buff, and then the mana cost lowered on top of that. So artillery seems like he's in a funky spot right now, Waza or Panda.
Yeah, artillery's been in a funky spot for a while. The thing is LRM is providing. Well, before the nerfs, he was providing too much to a team in the way of being able to stop a push. He was the perfect counter pusher. And in fact, a lot of people were rushing Doombringer, sitting at their throne and just LRM ring creep wave after creep wave, and it made pushing feel nigh impossible. So we wanted to lower his overall impact in flash farming and his ability to just straight up counter pushing. And so we did. We hit him a little bit hard, and then he had some problems that we had to get hot fixed into the game, and he just took a dive, and this is an attempt to help that out and to let him recover while not allowing him to be as insane as he was before.
Panda?
Yeah, it's artillery has kind of a long history. I mean, we've seen it even before his rework used to be used in competitive play for that split, for stopping those split pushes. The biggest thing about artillery is in evaluating him, we've always seen him as he ends up being strong because he can clear creeps really quickly. When realistically, we feel like we might have a lot of heroes like that already. So we started focusing on the strengths of artillery, which was his LRM being a very long distance damage. I mean, his LRM can reach up to 2,000 range. So the previous iterations of taking away his flash farming capabilities of adding the reduction in splash damage, it was towards our goal of if you want a flash farmer, you can go pick up Moon Queen or Draconis. If you want a long range hero, pick up artillery. So in evaluating that, we took away from his flash farming, and this is our focus to put more emphasis on his long range damage. I mean, LRM is going to be much easier to use for those long distances, and he's going to be able to use it much more frequently with the reduced mana cost.
Mid-Wars buff.
In short, yes.
Speaking of that, Ace Junior.
Mid-Wars buff.
Yeah.
Mid-Wars buff.
Yeah. I don't know. That seems cool. I don't really play artillery too much, but I enjoy playing with him on my team. I'll say that. And I think the biggest buff from this patch would be his touch radius increased. For a radius increase from 40 to 60. It should be cool. I don't really have much to say on artillery. He's a cool dude.
This hero's been through a lot, like I said. It's the whole idea of it has definitely changed. We did see a little bit. He had that jungle aspect, and then these changes happen. As kind of, it's been a hard place maybe to throw that balance really in there. But we'll see if maybe this is going to bring back interest perhaps in the TMM scene and whatnot. But again, Mid Wars, he's going to be still an iconic hero. That is for sure. All right, next one in line here. As I like to call it, or I called it when it first came out, Bombardier. But Bombardier. Shown here, so Ace, we finally made it to it.
Finally, I've been waiting. I mean, I don't know why you guys
That's why you came on the podcast.
Yeah, that's the only reason I'm on.
Sticky Bomb, as we've kind of hinted at and pointed out really a couple times now, can now attach to allies. And on top of that, the cooldown lowered to just a static 14 seconds. Bombardment now also deals damage to buildings, which is very interesting. And then Boom Dust, charge refresh from 10.864 to just 4 at all levels. So definitely buffs across the table. And yeah, new way to play the hero even. That's the Sticky Bomb. Throw it on a Mage Bane. Blink in there and just stun everyone around. I mean, some fun tactics here. What do you guys think? Waza, we'll start with you maybe.
Yeah, so the changes to Bombardier are awesome, and they open up so many different avenues for so many things to be played. You know, you've got a good change when Dangerous Dan, he comes, running into my office. He's like, "Waza, come over here. You got to check this out." You run over to his computer, and he's got this set up on his machine where he spawns Coriol. He lets Parasite jump into Coriol. He throws Bombardier's bomb on Curiel, goes invisible, flies over an enemy, blows up the bomb. Parasite drops out of Curiel.
Shiver, you mean? You mean the Shiver?
Yeah,
okay.
Not Curiel.
I was like, Curiel, that's kind of weird.
And drops out of Shiver and just instantly gives somebody. There's just so many different things that you can do, and there's going to be so many fun ways to play bomb. This is, I think, too, the change was very smart in that it put Bombardier in a solid playstyle niche that you can't really get from other just int nukers.
Support Bombardier, and it definitely wouldn't be out of the question now either. I think with the change.
And a little damage to buildings too is always solid to consider him now in any kind of push lineups or split pushing or whatever.
Yeah. Panda, what about you?
This is definitely one of the changes I've been having a lot of fun with in SPT. Have tried out Legionnaire and Bubbles with Bombardier, and I have to admit it's kind of annoying to try to tell your teammate to stand still so you can throw it on them. But when it actually works out, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Adam, Ace, Bombardier.
I mean, if I haven't made it clear, I think this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I know Trugo's going to be excited for it too, because Trugo just got into a little Bombardier fix phase, so he's been bombardiering a lot lately. And I think he'll enjoy this, and we usually play together, so boom, me, him.
A Sticky Bomb goes invis when you, so if you've been on a scout and he uses Vanish, would a Sticky Bomb be invis as well? So yeah, you could really set this up as a Nighthound scout teammates. I mean,
adding stun to all the initiators.
Yeah, like I'm a Portakey Behemoth
Woo!
or Pharaoh jumps. Oh my god, this is going to be amazing.
There's been a lot of, from what I understand, there's been a lot of RCTers who have been trying to time the Legionnaire bomb blow up as perfectly as they can.
Yeah. This is going to be fun, man. All right. So, Bombardier, definitely one of the more exciting changes come this patch.
Absolutely.
Next guy in line. Okay, as I brought it up earlier, Sacred Heroes. It is, I think it's a thing. And Bubbles is, I think, one of these Sacred Heroes, man. I mean, he has just been around since the beginning of Heroes of New Earth. And, I mean, he's had changes, sure, like buffs and nerfs, but definitely one of those interesting heroes that whenever changes do happen, it's like, did he really need that? But, hey, Kelfield getting nerfed, at least at the earlier levels. 85 seconds, now increased to 115, 185 at level 3, so the same there. Why these changes? Why this change to Kelfield?
I was just going over real quickly. Bubbles has always had this significant power spike when he first hits level 6, and Kelfield is a pretty powerful ability. We just wanted to make sure that if he is behind on levels, he's still not contributing. There's still an incentive to level him up for his extra ult cooldown. I mean, essentially, the large power spike at level 6 allowed him to comfortably forfeit lanes and still be largely effective to his team. So just taking a little bit away from that potential while not really touching the impact of it.
Was anything to add?
So the power level's still there. you're not nearly as often are you teleporting to a tower and then dropping an ult on somebody and giving them no option to retreat. Bubbles has often been one of those heroes that the community does not care what you do. Like if you change the smallest
still
thing
be
on it,
used.
they're just wildly upset. And there was a lot of other things that we had changed and tested with our playtesters, and Panda just was having a rough time finding anything that people did not want to just scream at him for because of just who the hero was.
Among everything in this patch, I've gotten hate mail from Bubbles and Devour.
Yeah.
Devour, really? Yeah, we'll talk about that later on. But Ace, anything to add there with Bubbles?
I don't know. It seems like a pretty simple change. He's not gonna be able to use his ulti as much at level 6, and will be unchanged at level 16.
Yeah.
Nothing too cray.
Yeah. Hurts the other game impact, but I think it's still we're going to see Bubbles.
Yeah, I think it has no effect on his play numbers at all.
Yeah,
But people are going
still
crazy like you ruined their favorite hero, Waza. So
Yeah, and then
How
the
dare
Devo
you.
thing was another one. Like, oh, what are you
Hey, we'll
doing?
get into that. We'll get into Devo.
oh,
You'll every time. Chronos, next one on the list here. Again, this is one of we'll probably just quickly explanation then move on. But automatic countdown timer increase from 5 to 9 seconds on Curse of Ages. So a little bit longer now. You can't just sit back and get those charges added up either or.
That's easily, yeah. Cronus has been seeing a lot of play lately. He's a little strong.
Had to address him somewhere.
Yeah.
Not
It's
the Chronos
really
one,
just to hit. It's really just to hit his laning phase. I mean, with 5 seconds being so short, it didn't matter. It kind of removed the interaction of auto attacking and building up charges. You essentially just always, anytime you were not attacking, you just automatically lost charges. Or you can even get a last hit, and before you even needed to get the next last hit, you're already down 2 extra charges. So
Yeah.
it's just taking away some of the freebie lane presence that he was getting.
All right. All right, keeping the alphabetical going, I might as well just go to what I have next on here. It's a little bit change of pace, not hero necessarily, but Courier. Courier getting a couple of changes here. The summon units damage to Courier lowered from 3 health per hit to 1 health per hit, so things like Hellhound, so Kizu's War Beast. Still will probably snipe some Couriers, but not nearly as effectively. Ground Courier cost reduced from 200 to 100. Interesting there, too. Again, explanation here.
It's largely just a quality of life change. If you lose the courier, it'll be a little bit cheaper to replace it, and in addition, your courier will be much less susceptible to summon units, more specifically things like War Beast and Keeper of the Forest Dogs.
Yeah.
Because essentially, if the courier took 2 hits from those minions, and keep in mind you have always more than 2 out, then your courier instantly dies. So wasn't really much response time. Just adding a little bit more, making it much easier to deal with those heroes.
All right. I think that's good on that one. Moving on here. We're going to do Cthulhuphant. Okay, keeping it again alphabetical order here. So Dawnbringer, next one in line. Well, I guess this is more like... we'll actually wait for... Well, okay, let's just stress it all. Dawnbringer, Icebrand, Frozen Light. I mean, all those got changes here as far as the amount of charges and the amount of slow it provides. So, again, a case of... Want to go ahead and explain there? The changes to Dawnbringer and Icebrand and whatnot.
Yeah, it's really just a minor quality of life buff to Icebrand. I mean, the biggest issue with Icebrand was it added 3% slow per charge, and you had to get up to 5 hits to build the maximum charge. Granted, of course, you didn't fall off. Make sure you hit them at least once every 3 seconds. So, just giving Icebrand a little bit more of an impact in its early game so you can achieve that maximum slow much easier than following up Dawnbringer and Frozen Light, Frostburn accordingly.
Yeah. All right. So again, moving it along here. Where it is next in line. Demented Shaman would be next in line. Is Unbreakable. This is one of frustrating abilities sometimes, man. And I'm glad to see the projectile speed from 800 to 1200, so you increase that because that's the worst feeling, man. You're like, I'm throwing you a shield, and all of a sudden he dies as it's in mid-cast, like in the air. So it gets there a little bit quicker. Cast time from 300 to 150, so even quicker now with the Unbreakable. So I assume that's the idea.
Yeah, it's fun and kind of amusing because, as you expressed, the patch note reasoning is actually Demented Shaman helps to stop some dramatic heroics from turning into awkward moments.
It's like Almost saved you, but didn't. I tried. All right. So Demented Shaman getting some love there. Not a crazy amount, but definitely getting some love. Good to see. All right, here we go. Here's the one that you mean rot.
Who said that?
It's the K.
Is it decay?
It's the K.
I typed rot. Dang. I always call it rot.
I just said the Han thing, but yeah, you could correct me. Sorry, Dota players out there. I should have said rot for all our Dota players.
It's just easier to say rot. All right. Can no longer self-deny within 1 second of taking damage from another player. How dare you?
Whoa.
How dare you, designers and balance team? You know what? I'm surprised to see this negative. I love this change personally. I saw this and I was like, thank God. That is one of the most annoying things to see, both as a spectator and play against. And Devour's like, you have 5 people collapsing on him, and then it's like everything's been, oh yeah, we got this kill, but deny. It's like, really?
It's one of those things that only people who will complain about this are going to be the Devo players that love to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And the thing is like anybody who's ever seen a Devo with a blood chalice who is just going to use a blood chalice and deny himself instantly with almost no effect from you. It's fun to see every now and then, but it's not something that you want to see happen consistently. And this was happening consistently. There are a lot of games where a good 40-50% of the time, Devo is straight up just denying himself when he shouldn't be.
I love it's like you have one side of the spectrum is like, yes, we absolutely love this. The other side is like, how dare you?
As I said, this is definitely one of those changes.
You're on one side or the other.
Hate mail over.
No in between.
Really, keep in mind. I just wanted to clarify for those people that might be a little bit frustrated. You can still self-deny, and it is still relatively easy. I'm going to be honest. Even if you're in mid lane, keep in mind a hero's attack cooldown is usually about 1.5 seconds. So you can still, if you had a decay on, you could still deny yourself pretty easily.
Yeah.
This is really only going to affect it when you're getting beat on by multiple heroes and then you get stunned. But even then, if you juke into fog and you decide to pop your chalice, you will still deny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 1 full second of not taking damage. So. Which
makes sense. I mean, come on. I'm sorry, but anyone that's against this, I don't get it.
It makes a lot of sense.
I don't get it.
I mean,
I'm almost glad to finally see that. Yeah, Ace?
I don't know. I just want to say, it feels kind of cheesy sometimes when you're just pounce on a Devo and then out of the blue, either use a blood chalice or, I don't know, I heard some story of some guy that was doing Swiftblade, spinning around, and just randomly the Devo has rod on. Swiftblade has him as Swiftblade Glacius combo. They froze him. They got him there, cutting him down to size, and boom, he gets denied. Mm-hmm. And it was like a no-skill play that just leaves a salty taste in everyone's mouth except for the Devo who thinks he's some cool guy for doing it. Now, if you throw a little skill in the mix, he jukes once and gets into the forest and then rots, I think it's a totally reasonable change, and if you're gonna get mad over that, then please have an open mind to things. So we're trying to make the game better, try and make an experience that you enjoy, as opposed to, I don't know. We're not trying to hurt you by any means. We're just trying to make the game a little bit fun for everyone.
That makes sense.
So, yeah.
Deal with it. That's what I'm gonna say. DWI.
Break,
if I had sunglasses, I would put them on.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have sunglasses around here. No, I don't. But
anyways,
I do. Deal with
it. And I will put them
on. There you go.
Deal with it.
Damn, so fly. All right, Alchemist Bones. We actually went over this one, or skipped over it. I mean, it's at the beginning. So going back to Alchemist Bones here, another change happened. And this, too, kind of a little bit of controversy here, because can now target player-controlled units, which, as I put on here, Ophelia now gets owned by Alchemist Bones. No, I will say, so we actually had a good discussion on this maybe a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago, even, where I heard about the change. And, we sat down and kind of talked about is this going to be the Ophelia killer? Will we ever see Ophelia again after this? That on top of the jungle changes, I still think Ophelia will have an impact and will still be seen personally. But it is understandable why people would see this and be like, okay, well, that's going to hurt Ophelia quite a bit, specifically. And that's kind of, when you see a change like this, how it's an Ophelia nerf, isn't it? I mean, that's what this change is, because what other case would you really see it in? So.
Yeah, so I definitely I definitely saw this as an Ophelia nerf, and the design team looked at it and said, yeah, we're nerfing Ophelia, and it is a byproduct of the Alchemist Bones is a byproduct of Ophelia, and you're going to see that these minions get worked a little bit. But the question is, Panda, if you'd like to tell the community why we felt that Ophelia could use the hit that it did.
Yeah,
Or that this
the
does.
interesting thing is, I mean, with this, especially with the changes, with the nerfs to the jungle. I mean, even before these nerfs, like currently, and the Alchemist Bones doesn't really see too much play. You don't really pick it up unless you get it within a set period of time, because it makes sense as far as time and investment. With the changes to the jungle, as far as creeps giving less gold, it's going to be much harder to make that investment when neutrals in general are giving you less gold. So I wanted to. It was an opportunity to refocus Alchemist Bones, give it a little bit more of a player combative use, and it will be usable against heroes like Ophelia. The trade-off is if you are saving the cooldowns for against things like Ophelia's creeps, you are not getting the cost efficiency out of it as far as maximizing your gold per minute, which is what the item is intended for. So it's giving it a little bit more of its split use. We felt that the use of it was a little too narrow, and that narrow use was also getting nerfed essentially because of the jungle. So if it becomes a problem, we could evaluate it then. But this is something we're definitely interested in trying.
Now, I want to be clear on this because people are bringing up like, oh, Tremble getting nerfed, Wild Soul getting nerfed. No, okay, guys, it doesn't work on Boo Boo.
Yeah, just to specify, Wild Soul, like things that affect player-controlled units. Yes, Shudder, Boo Boo, and like Malphite. They are all yes player-controlled units. They're specifically immune to things like Parasite Infest for balance concerns. So pretty much anything that you can't infest, you can't Alchemist Bones.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the big three, I think. The Malphus, the Boo Boo, the Boris are the big three.
Yeah, and you won't be able to use it on either of those three.
Can't actually work on those three. So yeah, and again, Ophelia, no doubt, is the one that you think about when you see this. But we have the discussions, and what it really came down to is it's like you said, this is, if anything, given another reason, another option to buy an Alchemist Bones. And there's talk about like when Nullfire Blade got changed, how it's like, oh, we're gonna really start seeing Nullfire now because it's already a great item, and now it's even less cost, and there's so many good uses for it. There's so many things you can purge off that are so effective. We don't see it, man. I think this is going to be one of those same things. We'll see Ophelia still picked up. We won't see Alchemist Bones picked up. I honestly believe that's going to be the case when it comes on the competitive scene. I think this is one of those on paper, it seems like it's going to completely own her. In realistic play, though, it's not. It's simply not going to. Maybe I'm absolutely wrong. Maybe I'll completely be wrong on this, but I feel like that's going to be the case. So, Ace, any further comments on Alchemist Bones?
Not really. I'm just gonna sit back on the Alchemist Bones. I don't touch Ophelia, so that's something that's known. I think Panda has a really good point in the fact that if you're waiting just to, screw over the opposing Ophelia, then you're not utilizing the Alchemist Bones. The point is, you spend the money early to make it back over the game, and if you can't make it back over the game, that's a wasted item. So why would you do it? So that's just that. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have it, then boom, bam, bing, that's great. But if you're not, then you're just, I don't know, not using it wisely. And I'm a wise player, if anything, so.
Of course. Okay, so moving on here. Electrician, next one in line again. Minor changes, but still something. Cooldown lowered on the Cleansing Shock, 16-12-8 to 12-8-4. So do the math, 4 seconds at each level. 4 seconds at level 16. I mean, that's quite a low cooldown for honestly a very powerful ability. Thoughts on that, or why these changes here? This change even.
It's just adding a bit more to the unique kit that Electrician offers. You really pick them up. You want to pick them up for that iconic purge. So we wanted to give him a little bit more late game relevance of if you do get him to that stage, he is constantly purging off buffs and debuffs.
There you go. Simple. Yeah, no, it's a powerful ability, man. I think it's one of those. We even saw it in the World Finals, if I'm not mistaken. One of the later matches. Blanking on which one, but
I think I remember seeing him.
I think I remember seeing him. Yeah, I saw the blur, man. It just happened so quickly. But it's a very, very powerful tool, and especially with the Staff of the Master, the split purge and against like Keeper of the Forest, seems like that'd be a very powerful tool, but never really saw that much.
Nope, he wasn't used at the World Finals,
Was
but
he not? Okay.
he was using during the qualifier event.
That was probably it then, yeah. going into it. Okay, so next change of line here. This was a really interesting one when I was kind of typing these out and reading over this one. Emerald Warden, Hunter's Command now applies sighted and revealed to the targets for the duration of the slow. Which, how long does that last, actually? I didn't actually type that out.
3 seconds.
3 seconds? Okay, so basically for the 3 seconds, you get the sight of the target that it goes to, rather than it going into the dark, and you're like, oh, I guess he's somewhere in that direction. You actually can see the hero that it goes on. That's correct?
Oh.
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's the yes. Okay. So the change for there. I mean, everyone is. I think whatever. One of these interesting heroes where kind of like an Amun-Ra, for example. We brought up him. Competitive scene, zero. We don't see it. We just don't see it played. Everyone maybe. I mean, there have been cases, but lately it's just nothing. TMM scene, however, complete opposite. They dominate the TMM scene, and I think Emerald Warden is still up there as far as being very powerful in the TMM scene, if I'm not mistaken, but.
Yeah, it goes along our goals of trying to get every single hero viable, and a lot of that comes with making sure that they can offer something to a team that will be interesting enough for team compositions and counter picks.
Yeah.
And this is one of those avenues where, if you want to pick up, if the enemy's running a lot of Invis heroes or like an Invis Suicide, you can pick up Emerald Warden as something more of a staple to counter that niche.
All right. Good for the size. Support Emerald Warden could even be more powerful now.
It's going to be the next big thing.
Silencing shot, OP. All right, another change here, and moving down alphabetical order. Energizer, going back to items here. Energizer actually receiving a bit of a change. The new build-up that it receives, or to create it even. Major Totem, Soul Scream Ring, and then the recipe on top of that. So only 1,500 gold now. That is less. Remove the passive move speed. Increase the mana cost to use it, and now has team cooldown at 25 seconds, similar to Astrolabe, really. So, overall, it definitely took the nerf, other than, of course, the cost of it in total. Reasons for that, please.
Energizer was an item that we feel like was being used too much for too many of the wrong reasons. It's very, very cost efficient, so people were picking up far too early in the game for other teams to really have a chance to respond to it. And naturally, with movement speed, if they have too much of it and you have too little of it, it makes it very difficult to actually get away from them. So by increasing the cost and making the build up a bit more difficult, it's just increasing that window of opportunity. It's lowering the window of opportunity that a team has when they can actually respond to it. Getting caught in my words. It's lowering the window of opportunity for its high impact effectiveness when teams can't respond to it.
Yeah. I mean, we've been seeing this item. It's picked up every game, at least by one, if not two heroes. It has turned into a very core item in games, which is surprising considering where it was, earlier in the season, even if not before. It was unheard of. Like, it was an item that we just would never see. And now it's like a very, very core build. So, toning it down, I think is a good way to put it.
Yeah. The important thing is, its stats. The stats are still there. I mean, if you want to pick it up as your first item, it's still going to be very largely cost efficient. It's just going to be much, much more difficult to pick it up as your first item because it's the difference between a Pretender's Crown or two Pretender's Crown, which is going to be in your starting item build, versus a Major Totem. So,
also, we have a lot of move speed being injected into the game with this. There's a lot of people running around. The buff doesn't stack, but yet you'll still see people having 2 or 3 on a team just because of the sheer amount of mobility that it gives. It's incredibly frustrating at a Team M level and at a competitive level to constantly have everything just getting these huge bursts of speed. We were seeing it picked up too much in all situations across the board, and we do not want to inject that much burst move speed just into the game. So while you guys are looking at this, you're like, oh my goodness, so many nerfs to Energizer. It is good to see, and it is healthier for Han to not have so much move speed injected into the game.
There you go. Ace, anything?
Yeah, I was going to say that it kind of like makes Energizer have the purpose of having one Energizer on the team. Just the same reason you don't get 2 barrier idols on the team. It's a team item. You should get one on your team, and that's about it. There's no point in picking it up for if 3 different people on the team are getting it, then it's like getting abused, in my opinion. So I feel like this is just finding that item's niche a little bit more. Yeah, the build-up's changed a little bit, and I guess really passive movement speed is not that big of a deal, in my opinion. 10 movement speed, nothing crazy. Either way, that's about it. I mean, it kind of just redefines it as a team item as opposed to a single person's item that can, just get away from a fight whenever they want.
Yeah.
Question though, are we going to run into difficulties if maybe I do have 2 energizers on my team and I have a big fight top lane, use mine to get away, and then leave my bottom lane stinted and kind of not able to use his energizer? Just,
It's the cooldown's only going to be affected for people that
If they
if they get hit by it. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay, cool.
like Astrolabe, the same concept. Yeah, if they don't actually get hit by the Astrolabe, they can actually still get another Astrolabe buff. But,
Sweet. Well, that's cool news.
But yeah, kind of just working off of that real quickly too. It's like Moon Queen, the Corrupted Disciple. This build up for these short lane carry heroes, range carry heroes. I don't. This may be enough of a change to definitely stop seeing it in those cases. But as a support hero, secondary support, even maybe of a jungler option, getting it for that team utility could just definitely still be very possible. Yeah, exactly. It's becoming more of a team support item in the end rather than a actual build up item into further. So, which I think is fine. Anyways, again, still plenty to talk about here, so keeping it moving along. Pretty short one here. Flux, cast time lowered from 400 to 200 on the Magnetic Surge. I don't even really think it's pretty much going to discussion. We'll just keep it moving here. We already talked about Frostburn and Frozen Light. Geomancer, his dig range increased to 1,000 at all levels, so he can now get in there more effectively at the beginning, early levels. And Geomancer is always, I found, to be a very interesting hero. It seems like it always comes down to the case of just a different and even a worse version of Magmus, which I think now you could even argue that's not the case at all. I think Geomancer is even more powerful, especially in certain cases, than a hero like Magmus. But are we ever going to see Geomancer kind of rise, you guys think? Or is he just one of those heroes that's kind of just secondary?
Geomancer, I don't think he's ever been second. I mean, he's been secondary competitively, but the hero brings a lot to the table, and a lot of long range CC and a lot of slows and good things that he's coming to the table with. 1,000 range on dig is huge, and I do think it does set him apart and puts him more in that long range CC niche than Magmus, he's often compared to. But we'll see a lot. I do think that this was actually from the patch notes brought to you by Swindlemelons, was the one who, in his patch note with the community that they brought up, this was one of their Geomancer changes. So I think it's a great idea, and I can't wait to see Geo picked up more. I think he will be.
Yeah, getting them more of a presence earlier on.
Yeah.
Ace, looks like you want to say something.
I mean, nothing in particular. I know Mad Fred plays a mean Geomancer, so it'd be nice to see what he can do with that. The heroes, it's cool, and at level 1, it'll give you a little bit more utility to either go into a fight or get out of a fight, because I know people use Dig as that utility of whether or not they want to escape or kind of, initiate. So I think that'll be a good change to it. Again, it's not a huge change if you're leveling up Dig all the way to level 4, since it's just 1,000 right there. But on that, yeah, I think it's a good change. I like Geomancer. Buff him to hell.
Buff him until he's just overpowered. It's
Yeah.
in every game. Please, no. That's Berserker for me. Grinix going to be next in line. Grinix, we got base stats. Agility gain lowered from 2.8 to 1.8. Again, may have a decent impact, but as far as, it's really just a number in the end. You want to explain, though, maybe just quickly for this. Grinix we haven't seen a lot more recently in the competitive scene, so...
Yeah, the important thing to know is, I mean, there's been a large concern about Grinix's early game is far too strong. But keep in mind, along with you have other Invis heroes options. We want to maintain Grinix's strength early game. We feel like him having that active ganking mobile playstyle at the early game and being comfortable as a side is something that's really something that he's iconic for. But what we weren't comfortable with was, how much late game damage he's putting out. You compare it to a lot of these other Invis heroes like Nighthound, Scout, or Madman. Like those those heroes are all very much more iconic for their carry potential and how much damage they're going to be doing in the later stages of the game. So there's really just to separate them out a bit more from his counterparts, and it's along our sides their goals of wanting to make all of our heroes viable for different reasons.
Do you have off chance, Panda, how many times Grinix was banned during the Hontor finals?
Specifically the Hontor event.
I don't know if Grinix was he?
Grinix wasn't as popular at the Grand Finals event in Thailand, but he was certainly the most popular for the qualifier event.
Yeah. The later part of the season and the qualifiers, he was a very, very popular
Very
hero.
popular pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the highest bans in the qualifiers.
He might have been up there on
correct.
the list. I'm not. Was he? Okay.
I believe he was the highest band in the qualifier stages. Yes.
So in the qualifier stages, Grinix was the most banned. He's definitely been considered. You might not be, and I think that a lot of the people watching competitive play, they don't notice that, like, they don't see Grinix being played, so they're like, why? What are you doing? But they don't realize that he's being massively banned because both teams just don't want to play him.
Yeah. Don't want to deal with him. So there you go. Grinix being nerfed. We'll see if it has an effect moving forward. Next one in line, Hammerstorm. Hammerstorm coming to the table. And interesting change here to his Galvanize, actually, his E-ability. The armor increased at all levels. Well, not at all levels, but 2, 3, and 4 especially. Mana cost lowered down to 0 to level 4. And then cooldown lowered on top of it all at the later levels. So Galvanize, more of an incentive to level it up, I think, is even a good way to put it too. And
Yeah, you might pick it up over stats now.
yeah, exactly. It's not a 1-point wonder anymore, or still might be, but
That was the goal going into it. How do we make Galvanize not worse than stats?
Yeah, it's alongside I mean, it's kind of similar to the Emerald Warden change as well, where if the hero is running a lot of heavy physical damage, you can pick up Hammerstorm to really counter that. Just adding a little bit more to team dynamic and counter drafting.
yeah. I mean, it's a good 12 armor. That's what Keeper used to be, if I'm not mistaken, before those nerfs
And you get it for your whole team.
And you get it for your whole team for that duration, yeah. And it's a cooldown of 12 seconds at level 4 on top of that, so it's pretty quickly that you can do that. That's really strong, man. That really is really strong. All right, so moving along, though. I we already talked about that. Icon of the Goddess did get some changes here in this patch, so definitely a mid-wars nerf here. Or change, I guess. Health and mana regen state lowered from 30 to 20 per second, and then health and mana regen state duration increased, however, from 10 to 15 seconds. So less regen, but for longer. There you go.
Yeah, in short, I mean, the item was just healing too quickly for after you got a kill, that it made it really difficult to kill heroes that got that effect, especially in team fights when you have heroes like Repulsor that Rambo in, and then you can't really kill them. It's a little frustrating to deal with. So we wanted to keep that impact. We wanted to keep the snowball factor still relatively high, so you still get the same amount of life and mana over the whole duration. It's just not as quick.
How is this going to affect Mid-Wars, Ace?
A lot, actually. Icon of the Goddess was like #1 mid-wars pickup in the world.
Let's go, too.
It'll affect it. I mean, I don't know. Still 20 per second health and mana regen is still huge, so it's still a viable option in my opinion. But, and I'm talking about viable option in mid-wars, but you can pick up anything, so it doesn't. It's not that big of an issue.
You don't balance
But
on Mid-Wars? What?
I'll still be picking it up when I got an early game advantage and I'm owning a little bit. Why not? Why not get those charges?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see a big issue with the change. I for one have experienced plenty of times how much Dr. Repulsor can just be a pain in your side when he's just rolling in. You can't target him because he keeps ulting, and you just don't know what to do. And then he gains all his mana and mana and health back, and you're just like, well, this guy's unkillable now. Why am I playing this? So either way, I like it. I like the change.
There you go. Iron Buckler, next one in line. And this is a simple yet at the same time very powerful item because this has to be up there as one of the most purchasable items in the game simply because it's in the build-up of so many starting items lists for a lot of heroes in a lot of cases. So, but yeah, Iron Buckler, the block amount lowered from 20 to 15, and the cost lowered as well, however, from 250 to 225. This is going to be interesting to see if this affects also starting builds.
Yeah, actually, when you do the Hatchet Buckler and and runes combination, you will squeeze out one extra branch or
Yeah.
sorry,
Or
minor totem,
yeah.
or mana potion.
So that's the goal basically.
The reasons for it is largely we want lane to be noticeable, and because of how much Iron Buckler reduced, in the event that you're getting harassed by support hero or even two ranged heroes, that's whenever it procs, you don't really know the support hero is not really getting any kind of satisfaction for harassing the enemy. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't even see a chunk of his health come off. So just alleviating a little bit of that frustration. At the same time, not really taking down its power too much. I mean, the cost has been lowered to allow for a little bit more build diversity.
Are you worried with a change like this? Because, like I said, this is one of these changes. It would seem every game build up item. It's a big change when you really put it that way.
Yeah, it's a pretty big change, but it's along with all of our other changes, it's something that we're going to be watching very closely, see if we need to make any additional adjustments.
Does Iron Shield remain the same? Is a question in chat. I assume it does.
Yes, all of the upgrades, including Iron Shield and Helm of the Black Legion, will remain untouched. They will still mitigate the full amount.
All right. There we go. Moving on. Or Aaron.
I think there's a lot of people concerned with Legionnaire and jungling with Legionnaire. We're keeping an eye on everything. I don't feel like you're going to see a problem with Legionnaire as much as you might think you would. I've played a few games with Legionnaire in the jungle. It's definitely not as dramatic as you would think. The power level isn't all that much changed.
Yeah, keep in mind to combat the jungle argument. Neutrals because of the jungle changes will deal less damage to heroes. So alongside that is there to help combat some of these Iron Buckler nerfs.
Yeah. So don't worry about Legionnaire. Though of course, if any hero falls too far from our expectations, we'll always look at it. But Legionnaire is not. We don't expect Legionnaire to be one of them.
Legionnaire's OP.
Guys, use it. Staff of the Master, great. Kraken, next one in line here. Base stat, move speed lowered from 310 to 300. Again, minor change, maybe. The number is significant, but at the same time, it's a crazy discussion here. But
it's mostly just so you can kite him a little better, even after he misses his abilities.
Right. There's certain heroes that are highly mobile and have a lot of lockdown, and when you go back and you look at their move speed, sometimes you see that they just have this very high move speed that's correlated with it, and it doesn't make too much sense. If they have high mobility, then they don't really need to have this super high move speed coupled with it.
All right, Midas or Ace, did you have?
No, I got nothing on crack.
Okay,
And Kraken.
Crack.
Glad you finished.
I got nothing on crack, man. It's a hell of a drug.
Midas, next one here. Lion's Pride and Golden Salvo getting touched up. Cooldown increased by 5 seconds. Oh, okay, no, I read that wrong. Lion's Pride cooldown reduced by 5 seconds. Golden Salvo cooldown increased by 5 seconds. So there you go. Interesting there. I mean, one goes one way, the other goes the other way completely. I mean, so this, why?
Yeah, this is actually a revert to the previous Midas nerfs. We've actually swapped them backwards again. So the reasons for it is Golden Salvo is one of your. It's a very difficult to hit ability, but it does have a high potential. While Lion's Pride is much more of your lower damage but high team fight impact. So we just wanted to bring Midas back in line, offering more to his team, offering more team incentives of drafting him as your healer if you want. Will have a much more usable uptime.
Yeah, Lion's Pride up, the one that heals as you're putting it in. Obviously, it gives it more utility with that. Self-explanatory there. Okay, the next one. This is one that's going to draw a little bit of attention, I'm sure. Moon Queen. It always does draw attention when changes happen. Her move speed is actually nerfed to 310 from 320, and then the damage lowered from 300 to 275 per beam on the Moon finale. So.
Oh, whoa! That's a mistake.
That's a mistake.
That should read base move speed increase from 320 to 450. Moon finale damage increase from 300 to 965.
Yeah, I thought we were buffing this hero.
Yeah,
I was like, wait, did I actually type that wrong? Clever you.
Queen.
Classic Waza.
I know. That's Waza.
We should buff it more. Anyways, so yeah, the moon finale overall damage obviously lessened by significantly quite a bit too because of that nerf there. So, is this enough? Is this where we finally see Moon Queen? Like, okay, she's at a good spot.
It's interesting enough because Moon Queens are. I mean, you would say she's your insta pick win when basically I mean, the counterplay is there. People are finding a lot more strategies to deal with her. They've definitely noticed that if you want to deal with her early game, if you shut her out in the early game, she's not really too useful. In evaluating that counterplay, I've noticed the raw damage output from her ultimate was a little too high. That even if you do shut her down, she's still providing a large impact in team fights. So this is just to bring down some of her the damage of her ultimate, especially most noticeably at level 6 when 4 of her beams are hitting the same target. You're going to lose out on an extra 100 damage. So
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Is this the end of Moon Queen? Probably not.
No, probably not.
Simple answer there. Okay, so moving on here. Another one. This is another hero that's been getting a lot of attention as of recent. Pestilence. Getting some changes here. The Impale, the stun duration actually lowered. The slow still lasts the same 2 seconds, but the stun duration lowered to 1.75 max compared to 2.5. That's good amount of significant difference there. And then the Swarm mana cost increased from 25 to 50, so it takes away from being as spammable than before, but still.
A lot of people love to hit that Swarm. Swarm lasts forever,
It does,
guys.
yeah.
Like, it lasts forever. And guys, the massive complaint that I'm hearing is, oh, well, now I can't spam it in the early game. Well, how much do you got to spam that stuff? Like, what?
You put it up, and 2 creep waves later, you got to put it up again. Yeah.
It's an annoyance it's tedious to play against. It was a little over the top, and he does and he could use a little mitigation in the way that he constantly spams it. So we're like, he can't spam this as much as he could before. That's the point.
that makes sense.
That's the point.
Let's change that.
get a chalice.
Get a blood chalice.
Just touching on it real quick. The focus with Pestilence was we noticed he's too good at too many rolls in short. So bringing down things like his stun duration and swarm mana, increasing his swarm mana cost, wanted to take away a little bit from the utility that he's providing to his team, when realistically we also want to maintain some of his carry potential as his chasing stunning playstyle.
Ace, Pestilence.
Nothing too crazy over here. I'll just say he got picked up a lot, and I think that he was one of the strongest heroes that we saw at the Hontour Grand Finals, World Finals. So, on that note, I think this is a pretty valid change.
Yeah.
That's about it.
There you go.
He needed to be touched a little bit. I know that that Swindle thinks that he's saying that he doesn't need to. He didn't need all of what he got, but we do feel like this will bring him in line, and he was picked up quite a bit in other games and other semifinals and qualifiers. He was up there with critics as well. I just picked him, played.
He got some massive buffs. I still remember the Runic Shift patch, and we were all like, "This hero is going to be seen a lot," and he was. He's gotten toned down over the season, over time, but he is still seen as a go-to. And the great thing about it, we see him not only mid presence, but his short lane presence too. We see him actually quite a bit as far as our short lane farmer. So. Pollywog Priest. Next in line, Pollywog Priest. We're going to hear that. Would love to see more of.
I love Pollywog.
He is a fun hero.
One of my favorite. Top 3 for sure.
Mana cost lowered on his Tongue-Tied ability at all levels. And then the Voodoo Ward's mana cost lowered at, looks like the last level by 100. So, 600 mana is what it used to cost.
Why?
Jeez.
Why does that cost 600 mana?
Why did it jump up 150 to 250, more importantly? Anyway, so 100 less mana at the max level. So, Pollywog Priest changes here. Why?
I just noticed Tongue-Tied was costing, for how easy it is to interrupt and how much of a dangerous position Pollywog has to put himself in.
Mm-hmm.
That the mana cost was just far too high, and he wasn't really achieving, the max potential of the ability to begin with. So alleviating some of his mana costs will also make him much better as his support role, where he won't be as stressed for gold in trying to remedy those mana problems.
Yeah. All right, so Pollywog Priest again. We'd love to see more of him. Sounds like I'm not alone in saying
The last change we did was we reverted some of the previous nerfs that we did to him, and now
Rewards.
lowering mana costs. And I would love to see a lot more
Bringing it
Polywog
back.
played.
Make Staff of the Master spawn a third set of voodoo wards.
Oh.
And then we probably would.
You're onto something.
Just saying.
He rains them from the sky like
They
Bombadil.
just keep coming down.
Okay, see, that sounds way better.
They just keep coming down. Oh, boy.
A global voodoo jester, global voodoo polywog wards that rain from the
All right,
sky.
this is a dangerous discussion we're having, guys.
See, you get
This is how ideals start flowing in. Before you know it,
next patch.
it's in next patch.
Be right.
Hell, it's in this patch. I'll just throw it in. Prisoner 945. Next one in line. Base stat got increased 53 to 59 damage to 57 to 63. One Man Riot reworked. It's kind of interesting reading this, but it's just reworked from a flat static amount to now it's based on the damage or the cooldown of each of your abilities. So the hook, the shackle, and of course the prison break. Interesting. Why?
We just noticed One Man Riot, when you look at it on paper, it's not really a very interesting ability.
Boring ability.
Damage
Yes.
damage passives, we have a bunch of them, but even damage passives, you can do them in very interesting ways. So evaluating it, I mean, we still wanted to maintain some of that high impact of Prisoners, very much ball and chain hard hitter, swinging it around. So we actually emphasized it more with, when you use your abilities and you're throwing your hook around, you actually will deal more damage. But again, losing some of his passive damage increase. So it's mostly it was more a creative outlet to make the ability a little bit more unique and much more desirable for the prisoner. Because how often do you really need the base damage when you're not actually using your abilities to kill someone?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. The
This
synergy of
is
that.
another one that I think people, when they read it at first glance, they look at it and they don't quite understand it. But the potential here is really high, and 90% of the time when you use this hero, you're going to be, grabbing somebody with your hook and then restraining them, and you're going to get this huge burst of damage, and it's going to feel cool as shit, and you're going to really see that impact, and you're going to be like,
Especially with the other parasites.
this wasn't
that you have.
nearly as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah. Two things that okay, I guess the one more importantly though, maybe Ace can answer this one. Why
Yeah.
is Prisoner a Legion hero?
Maybe Ace can answer this one. What the question?
I noticed that when I was doing this. He's a Legion hero. I don't get that. I don't know.
Why is he?
He just
Legion
seems like a
hero?
Hellborn hero. to me.
His lore is what happened was he was, and me being the guy who named the hero and came up with the fact that he has 4 arms. I should know this. No, his lore actually states that he was bound in the pits or some huge prison, and it was actually Jeraziah that set him free to fight for the Legion to earn his freedom.
Ah.
Yeah.
He just looks like a mean dude though.
Bonus
Yes.
points for Waza.
Bam!
Looks like a mean
Dropping
dude.
lore.
There you go. Having your back, Ace. Actually, no, serious question though. This is items. Do they activate the One Man Riot?
No, they do not.
Okay, so it's just his
It
skills.
might be a little too strong.
Okay,
to
yeah.
get.
So it's just his skills. So the max you could get is what, 90% technically.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. Next one. What do we got here? Revenant. Revenant's always been a fun hero. I've loved this hero for the longest time. Never really seen much of him, but one of mine that would be really cool to see. Base stat, attack time lowered 1.7 to 1.5. Slow duration increased from 3 to 4 seconds on Defile. And then Mortification now prioritizes enemies over himself. So again, a couple of minor buffs here and there for Revenant. Some attention being drawn to this hero, perhaps.
Yeah, in short, I would say the biggest change is mortification, prioritizing enemies over self. Something, I guess, what people, in case you don't play Revenant, mortification, when you're casting your W, it always prioritizes. It'll always go to you regardless of who you target. So you're really missing out on a lot of that damage unless you want to get in melee range of the enemies. So this is going to be one of the biggest changes.
You mean when you have the 2 of it, the 2 and the 3
Yeah.
of it, like okay.
When
that makes
it's
sense, yeah.
duplicating its cast and
That
it's
makes
like
sense.
multiple enemies or multiple allies,
Okay.
it will always target yourself. So
Yeah.
again, it'll actually spread out on more than one target.
Cool.
It's the way that it should have functioned the entire time.
Yeah. Just take some time sometimes to
Right.
make it work.
There's a
like
lot. There's a lot of heroes.
that. There's a lot of years. Another kind of a short description here, but interesting. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Interesting change nonetheless. Slither, base stat, attack range lowered from 500 to 450, so even nerfing that laning presence more. I mean, no
What
one
you
has
talk
one of the
about,
most
Willis?
powerful laning heroes. What are you doing here? Why?
In short, we found Slither was as a support hero or even as a zero solo. He's far too powerful against a lot of ranged heroes. We want this with the 500 range not being with him having 500 range as opposed to 600. And him being a very aggressive. He's very powerful against melee heroes. We wanted to maintain that, but we just weren't comfortable with how effective he was against ranged heroes. So toning down a little bit of his attack range, making it easier for those 600 range heroes to really play around and harass him, while not really taking away from his melee strength.
This goes back to, again, it helps separate the heroes into different niches. You know, being able to just Slither being this huge harasser of both range heroes and melee heroes, now it's falling more the lines of where it should have been, which is directing Slither as a counter to heavy melee lineups. You know, and she shouldn't just be able to harass anything out of the lane. And with this nerf, she will see more punishment from things that she's not supposed to counter, ranged heroes.
All right, yeah, very, very strong laning presence. So, Ace, anything to add with Slither?
Nope.
We're good. Solstice, next in line. Holy Solstice. You just get so happy. Man.
I just every
the
time
name's brought
I
up.
love
Solar Slash. Bonus damage to creeps increased from 75 to 100%. Illuminati, as I call it, Illuminate, no longer blocks neutral spawns.
Go treasure hunting.
Yeah. No longer blocks neutral spawns, though, so it can't be used as a, haha, we are not going to be able to jungle counter tool. Waza, what's the deal here?
Okay. So plain and simple, this change was a very simple change. Solstice is doing fine right now. Numbers are incredibly healthy. Her jungling is where it should be. However, when looking at the nerfs to the jungle, we did want to make sure that heroes like Solstice, who weren't the intended, they weren't in the crosshair for those nerfs in the jungle, like Tempest and Parasite, and those guys were. So we wanted to make sure that Solstice wasn't damaged in the process. So this bonus damage to creeps from 75 to 100% was just to offset that mitigation with the nerf on the jungle. So plain and simple, and of course, Illuminate should not be blocking neutral spawns. So pretty straightforward buff there.
Yeah.
It's kind of more like, rather than a buff, it's more like a realignment with the jungle change.
We've seen Solstice Jungle was kind of popping up throughout the playoffs and whatnot. I mean, Minot's for
Yeah, I was
played him a couple
super
times.
excited.
We saw Hanskin put his hands on him a couple times. So I mean,
Yes.
it's happening, Waza.
I know.
It's finally happening.
I thought this day would never come.
This balancing the game around seeing Solstice in the competitive scene is finally coming together, Waza.
Every change.
The master
and
plan.
I can say it now. Every change that I have made in the game of Heroes of New Earth has been to one day see Solstice played in every
just about
competitive
there.
match ever.
I'm feeling it, man. We're just about there.
Soon.
All right. This change, maybe not as much for that, but Striders getting some love here. Now grants 2 health point regeneration passively while you have charges. So while you're getting the increased speed, you also get 2 health regen on top of it. Support love. Always love seeing this.
Yeah, the nice thing about it is, when you pick up Striders, you're generally thinking you want to be roaming a lot, getting a lot of early game kills. So what generally happens is you get an early game kill, it results in an automatic fountain trip for you because you have to heal back some of the damage you got from getting that kill. So this is really just to help out Striders in its role of, if you're actively roaming around ganking, you won't have to take as many fountain trips.
Yeah. It's going to be nice. Now, is this a big? Is this something we're going to actually be able to see as far as the HP regen, or is it?
I mean, you'll see it about as much as you see supports pick up a trinket of regeneration.
That's what I was going to say. So trinket of regen, that's what, 3.5?
It's 2.
Is it 2?
Yeah.
Okay. How much is life 2?
4.5.
Is it 4.5? Okay. All right. So yeah, basically the same as that. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. Ace. I know you're like strategy change.
No, I'm over here. Yeah, still here, still alive. Yeah, I think it's just gonna be a good change for supports. As I support quite a bit, that long walk to the fountain is It's like the walk of shame, in my opinion, and it just goes way too long. So this will be nice to get a little extra added boost. You need to grab some tangos and probably be okay in lane if you just chill with the charges on.
Yeah.
So
What about people suggesting why not mana regen instead of health regen? That might be make more sense for that going around ganking.
That was actually something we tried in testing. We did have mana regen. The problem we had with it was it was so impactful that it really started obsoleting things like the necessity to pick up refreshment runes.
Okay.
While mana is a concern for going off and picking off heroes or going off and ganking, you're not usually limited by mana when you're killing people. You're usually limited by mana when you're harassing in lane. So we felt that the extra mana regen from Striders was just providing some excessive use for it that wasn't really intended for its role.
Will post haste get the life regen?
Correct. Post haste will get the life regen.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, it makes sense. Good job. All right, this was an interesting one to see, man. This is one that could definitely change the way Kongor is played, as far as especially after Kongor. Token of life, of course, is what I'm talking about. The duration of token. Now, no longer 7 minutes. Instead, it's now 5 minutes.
Yes, beautiful change. This okay. So look, the longer the duration, when competitive players pick up the token, what they think to themselves is, "Quick to the lane." No, they don't think that. They go, "Now it's time to farm until this token's about to die. Then we utilize it." So what happens is when you have these long durations on the token, it makes them go back to their jungle. They start to farm. It increases passive gameplay. Now, with of course, and it's simple to understand, is with the 2 minute decrease, it gives them less time to play that passive, and it's just pushing action into the game and allowing for shorter times of passivity.
I like seeing this, man. Yeah, I'm
cool.
always a fan of, obviously, the more action encouraged. That's obviously the whole concept, the idea behind it, and I think you're right. You know, you see the Conquer kill, it's like, all right, so now they're going to wait until it's about 2.5 minutes remaining. They're going to go into the lane and start pushing. This means you have that 2 minutes less time now before we start seeing that, if anything. So, John, anything to add on that?
I mean, Waz pretty much covered it. It's just eliminating some of that window that you have of freedom.
Ace, is this going to change everything?
yeah, I mean, no. I think it'll just cause more action, but that's not going to change everything.
Good insight, Ace.
Different.
What you asked me what I think we talk about? It's 7 minutes to 5 minutes. I like seeing games where the action is fast, and I like when I'm watching competitive Han. I like to watch it when they're pushing lane, and I do not enjoy farming and just having control of the map where one team is just defending their base, the other team is taking over the jungle. So yes, I'm gonna enjoy this change. All right.
That's very good. You've been doing great, Ace. I don't care what Waza says.
Hey, what you guys don't understand is I love trolling Aces whenever I can.
Yeah,
that's
Waz is a big freaking troll.
Valkyrie, Call of the Valkyrie. Now the second hit always targets closest instead of a random.
Welcome to how something should have always worked.
Another one of these, huh?
That's
it. All right.
That's my thought on it.
It's one of those things where you try to justify why it's random over closest. While yes, there is a small power increase with you having a lot more control over it. It's much more frustrating for a high impact ability like that to be random. Kind of in the same sense that Devourers is frustrating when he randomly denies himself. So.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Only a couple more here. Vindicator. This is Vindicator, man. Vindicator. I have a feeling Vindicator is one of these heroes for you guys as a design team, balance and everything. It's just like, come on, man. Come on.
My honest opinion is if I had my way, I'd be like, hey, Vindy, come out here, man. I want to talk to you behind the barn real quick. Gagoosh! Gagoosh! And I would just put him out of this. He's one of these heroes that it's just nobody can be happy with him, or people like him or don't like him. They love him, they hate him. And you can never just really find a good place with him. But right now, he actually has been seeing a lot of play in the upper brackets and in competitive play. So he is considered a dangerous threat right now, and I believe that's the reason behind the nerf.
Oh, we saw it in the final game of the World Finals.
His concerns, yeah.
Didn't go too well, but
Yeah,
Bring that
interesting
up.
thing about Vindicator is, I mean, while his power might be there, I mean, people might be reading this and thinking, why are you nerfing Vindy? Keep in mind, this is also an avenue to buff other things if necessary, but it's mostly Glyph of Silence as an individual skill. It's not providing very much counterplay. It's not really interesting for enemies to deal with. So, and that's largely because between the cooldown and the duration, the thing is pretty much always up. There's not really, and there's never a window of opportunity for the enemy team to respond. So, we want counterplay to be meaningful and clear. So we've increased the uptime. We've reduced the uptime of it.
Yeah, that's good. That passive, man. I mean, even as a spectator, and it's not something you can necessarily see, but you just know it's having a huge effect. And when you talk to players after any Vindicator game plan against it, they're just like, holy shit, man. Vindicator is just so annoying and so hard to deal with. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I can understand why Vindicator, why you may feel that way, Waza, but in the end, hey, we're still trying, right? Still trying.
Hey, never give up.
Never give
Never
up in the
surrender.
end. So the cooldown increased. We'll see what kind of impact that has.
Yep.
Final hero to talk about here. Final hero, Warbeast. The final hero receiving some attention. Interesting here seeing this. Hellhound's actually the starting armor increased, as well as the damage being increased. I mean, this is a more
Realigned.
yeah, I guess that's a better way to put it. The maximum is actually slightly less, but still, earlier levels are more effective. I think that the reaction that I had with this, though, when first seeing this was like, this is more to, we want to see him in the jungle, damn it. Stop
Yeah.
going to the lane, Warbeast.
Well, yeah, this definitely has very little to do with his suicide potential. And to be honest, playing him as a suicide is a skill and a talent that very little people possess.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's true.
this change was for the vast majority of people who play and enjoy Ward Beasts to, like Solstice, offset those jungle changes to allow him to, in the earlier portions of the game, when, let's be honest, no one really enjoys, grabbing one of the hounds and pulling him back when he's low and then getting the other one and kind of like constantly playing this readjust game. While that's a cool different way of juggling, it's tedious. And this is meant to kind of offset that and make that a little easier for people who are playing Warbeast to deal with. So with the jungle changes to coming in, this, like Solstice, just meant to make things a little better for him.
Anything else to add, John?
Nope, pretty much summarized it.
Ace.
Nope.
Gotta have something on Warbeast. What about Lycan? You got something on Lycan?
Yeah, we're adding Lycan to the game.
Yeah.
So
I actually
You're welcome.
have ported Lycan into SBT 36 times. Right now, the SBTers play 36 different types of Lycan. We'll get there, guys.
I'm still wondering where that joke came from.
no one knows.
It was forever
I'm sure.
ago when some guy was like, "Why don't you port Lycan?" And we were like, somebody was like, "Lycan's already in the game," and then everybody responded with, "Why don't you port Lycan?" like 30 times with response to the thread, and then it's just went from there.
Okay.
So much troll. All right, that is it. That's all.
Yeah.
We made it.
You mean there's not more changes?
No, there's
Aw.
not more changes. That was a lot of changes. Obviously we ran a little bit longer than we were expecting to, but hey, we made it. We made it through all the changes. We got through it, and it seems like we had a consistent view result throughout. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really do appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully, you got a lot of the answers maybe you're looking for, just out of curious, opinions and discussion that we had here. From not many times we understand that we try to do as much as possible, but you don't get these interactions with the team creating the game itself, making these changes. So hopefully you guys did enjoy that. So of course, before officially wrapping up, though, I want to throw it around to the table here and give you chances, final words and shout outs and whatnot. John, aka Pandaroohoo, we'll start with you.
I gotta give out a shout out to my buddy Zizix that had no idea was watching. It would be that should be at work. Who happened to text me to say to mention that he was watching me while doing this. So make this shout out to Zizix that's watching.
There you go. Waza?
So my shout out would have to go to SBTers in general, like my SBT playtesters. A lot of people give these guys crap. They really do. They come in, they bust tail every day, Monday through Friday. They're here just working, and they complain and they bitch about things that they hate, and they tell me things that they love. And if it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be a lot of changes coming into the game. And And big time guys like PZKW, Hubaris, Smurf and Bird, all those guys who spend their time, Hubaris. These guys spend a lot of time working with reworks and talking with me and giving me feedback, and I really appreciate all that they do for the game. And lastly, the man of the hour in my book is Element U. Without his incredible work in finding bugs and scripting heroes, a lot of this stuff just would not get to you guys in time. So they're kind of like the unsung heroes of these patches, and my love and credit goes to them.
Well said, Waza. Well said. Ace, community manager, what do you got?
I got quite a bit, but I'll make it short. So here we go. Quick shout-outs to my boys Macrohard, Necroth, and Lock16K. Doing a great job with a bunch of community events. If you want to, get involved, participate in any of them, they will be on the general discussion section of the forums. You can check it out there. Along with that, we got a few different community initiatives that have been going on. One in particular is by our boy Remarkable. He's doing this thing called battleneworth.com, so you can check it out at battleneworth.com. It's kind of like a pseudo league. That and pretty much all you guys. Hey, I love being the community manager, even though you guys are big trolls. I still enjoy working with you guys because that's it. It's fun. It's part of the environment, and I enjoy it. So just keep playing. We're obviously working hard for you guys, and just hope that you guys are enjoying what we're doing because we are putting in the effort. So
yeah,
just big shout out to you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for playing.
Well said.
What's
again.
Up? Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the patch 3.4. John, you want to say something?
One last thing. I just wanted to make sure everyone watching here, you know what these patch notes are. You're going to be playing them tonight or tomorrow. Please make sure that you go and post on our forums any concerns you have. I mean, if you want to give benefits, we'll make sure right people get mentioned. But if you have any concerns, we're always looking for those problems so we can adjust, we can create solutions if needed. But please be sure to give us your feedback as far as the patch is concerned, and we'll be happy to accommodate.
Patch comes out midnight tonight Eastern, or when does it come out?
It comes out whenever I patches it. It's usually like 8. It's usually
patch will come out for NAEU. It'll come out. We patch in between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock on every other Wednesday.
Okay.
This has been the patching schedule for a long time now, and will be the patching schedule for a long time.
Okay.
Every other Wednesday.
Glad you're here, Ace.
Yeah, there we go.
So tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern.
No, 8 a.m.
8
to 9 p.m. 8 a.m. to 9 a.m.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I just follow the competitive
scene. It's okay.
I just cast games. I don't know about any of this stuff. That's why we got Ace, so Ace is here.
There we go. There's a reason I'm on here, all right? There's a reason.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, again, check out patch 3.4. We're excited for it, as Ace and all of us really put it here. Hard at work behind the scenes, making this for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm sure you will. Riptide's coming, man.
Yeah,
Riptide's coming.
Watch out for that rising tide.
It's going to be fun.
Take it easy, guys.
Take it easy. Have a good night. We'll see you next time here on Honcast. As far as next time goes, hopefully later this week, guys, we're going to be covering actually some matches here on Honcast of these tournaments that are coming up. HonTour.com. With all that said, go sign up, guys. Join up with your friends. These are tournaments basically that are going to be ran every single week. We got what's called the Variety Cup. We got the North American Cup for North American time zone. We also got the 5v5 Cup. So, but the Variety Cup's more of like a mid-wars kind of fun tournaments. 5v5 Cup's the one over the weekend. Your captain's pick, typical tournament. And then, of course, the NA Cup, I believe, is also kind of a mid-wars kind of event, more for fun of the year. We got some events. HonTour.com. Check it out, guys, and sign your teams up. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, have a good night. We'll see you later.